Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of the Aegis Marauders League. My name is Moose, and joined here as always by Jack. Jack, how has your week been so far?
Been great. Some things have changed around. We had some unexpected circumstances, but I'm happy to be here casting some more AML.
Absolutely, yes. Let's go ahead and jump in right to that. Quickly, folks, if you guys are not aware, one of the grand finalist teams, all in 27, has been disqualified from the AML for smurfing. And it is a very tough situation to be in for the team, for the members, for the players. And this just goes out as a public service announcement to all players and all teams that are participating in Aegis Esports. It might not be week one, it might not be week five, but eventually we will find those players and those teams that are attempting to break the rules into their own favor and make this tournament be less value because you have a player that is exceeding the rank cap for this league, and it ruins your reputation, it ruins the organization's reputation, and it's really just a whole rough thing to do. We always get this every season. You're always going to get caught. They've never had a team that's had it not had this happen. So just keep that in mind if you're trying to bamboozle us and bamboozle the league moving into this next season. However, let's go ahead and get ourselves updated on the two teams that are playing off against each other here in this pseudo semifinals match. Dizzy's P5 versus the Agency, the two teams that ended up falling short against All in 27 in the playoffs are now going to have their chance to find themselves in the grand finals against Akuma Pizza Cutter. And starting off, Dizzy's P5, we casted that game, Jack, and that series could have very much gone into Dizzy's favor.
Yeah, I mean, it was an absolute five-game banger, and it could have been a four-game 3-1, but I want it to be memorialized in history. Vertigo putting his team on his back. Alaskan Kodiak bridged them with his incredible Gnar performance, but four objective steals by Vertigo's Maokai. He got a Voracious Otacon to get them footing. He got them two Dragons and a Baron. This guy went ballistic. And with their starting mid back at Severed, I really think this team is hungry to get this opportunity.
I 100% agree there. And the way that they were able to still make it a game five situation 2 weeks ago, obviously, you don't know what the team has been up to. They thought that their season was over. Now, getting another opportunity to come back. I am curious to see what Sever's going to be able to do here in the mid lane. It didn't have that opportunity to play against them in that quarterfinals match. And Severed is a longtime member of the AML. So curious to see how that is going to work. Let's go ahead and jump into our other team, the Agency, who fell short in the semifinals match against All in 27, 3-1. But another one of those teams that did a bunch of work in the regular season, 3-0'd Boomers over Zoomers in the quarterfinals. And they are also one of those teams that very easily could have made it to the grand finals.
Yeah, they do have Sting in for Dunsey in the support role, but I mean, you go down the roster, Broken, Dopa, Alistair, these are all players who have performed exceptionally well individually, and Broken performing as one of the best players in the entire league. They can play standard, they've got pocket picks. The big question has been top lane, Terry Tinkle. This has been a guy, he's capable of falling very far behind, but when he gets some of his really comfortable champs, he is a Riven player. So when he gets some of these champs, he can step up and help carry this team.
And that's going to be the big question mark here, I think, for this match. I am curious to see what the mid lane matchup is going to be between Dopa and Severed. But how is this top lane going to play out? And I think we've seen some really highlighted performances in the top lane in the AML this season. A lot of times, and I think most of the times that we've seen this season, there have been lackluster performances, or it's really just been that island that players know moving into the top lane. But with Terry Tinkle having such a volatile performance in the AML so far, I'm curious to see if that's going to give an opportunity for Dizzy's P5 to play topside, try to go for Void Grubs, try to go for those Autocons if it lands topside, and really try to accelerate the game early on.
Yeah, I'm also interested to see how proactive the agency want to get about knowing, we have a member that's susceptible to falling behind. Are they going to save his selection until they can counter? Are they going to pick him a really strong and comfortable blind, maybe something like a Mordekaiser or something you can just kind of pick, farm under turret, and then be useful later? Or are they going to get proactive in their macro, swapping lanes? Alistair, even with the sub support, Alistair is a very commanding player. So are they going to look to swap? Are they going to look to find him favorable lanes? Maybe some extra proximity from Broken, who's known to play a lot of different champions that can really turn a 1v1 situation fast, playing like Lee Sin and Nocturne. He can fly in and help support at any time. So I think there's a lot of strategies, and I'm hopeful that in this short amount of time that they were told, hey, you guys get another chance, they really utilize the synergy. And like you said, a lot of these players are longtime Aegis players. So let's hope that after a regular season, maybe a little bit of a break, they can come in strong here in this draft.
Yep, and we'll go ahead and jump into draft here in game one. It is a fearless draft as always, and we've seen both of these teams really try to go for those pocket picks getting taken away throughout the entirety of these series. We've definitely criticized teams for maybe not capitalizing on champions that are available, giving them over to the other team, or just not using them in those opportune moments. But blue side is going to be Dizzy's P5 here for game one. I mean, honestly, considering what we've been seeing out of Vertigo, and if Sever's really feeling like they're on their game, I would love to see a B1 jungler mid pick here.
Yeah, especially, I know it's early and they like saving it, but grabbing that Maokai again, knowing that Vertigo can, I don't think carry is the right word when you're picking a champion like Maokai, but really huge playmaking potential, huge ability to get into the objectives and get a lot of steals, as Orianna has not been first pick. We are going to see bans, and Orianna being taken off the table as that is Dopa's, I don't want to say one trick because this guy's proficient, but it is by far his preferred mid lane mage. I'm also very happy to see that they picked blue side. DB5 took advantage of side selection, and right now mid lane has blue side, has a 55.5% win rate, whereas red side is only at 44.5. And we've seen a ton of red side selections, but these are teams that recognize maybe we haven't scrimmed as much recently, maybe we haven't played as much recently. Let's take the safe side. Let's B1 a really strong pick, maybe like a Gwen that's still very good. You see a lot of counters, specific counters like the Samira coming out, the Nocturne coming out, but Dizzy's P5, they've got a lot of really strong players, and starting off with the Tristana flex, I think that puts them in a really good spot right away.
Yeah, and also taking away the Varus with Corki and Samira also being the other two bans. The Corki, a flexible pick that can go into the mid lane or into the bottom lane, but that Samira definitely targeted towards the bottom lane of DP5. A good way to deny the pressure early on from a Tristana is to deny them the opportunity to be able to get kills and to be able to get gold. Rel going to be very optimal at doing that. And instead of going for that DPS right now, we're going to go for that Skarner, two of those very high priority champions, now going to be picked up for the agency. I'm looking at these team fights, Jack. A lot of crowd control already available for red side here.
Yeah, and we talked about this a lot during that first best of 5 where we actually win 5 games. Engaged supports become a very scarce commodity once you get to game 5. So making sure you have at least your first game with, in my opinion, the strongest engaged support in the game right now in Rel is very powerful, as well as the Skarner. You kind of are done with engage. You don't have to worry about finding something later on that fits your comp and as well against the opposing team. You've got all the engage you need. I love the Braum. even though if they pick a lot of range, it could get scary. But what really scares me is getting Gwen here, because this champion is still extremely strong, and into 2 melees and a short range mage, Gwen is going to thrive. Now, we don't know if it's going to be jungle or top, could be either. It is flexible. But for now, I think Ryze is also a decent pick. You got 2 melee champs on the other side. You want to pick something safe in the mid lane. They don't want to show their AD carry selection yet. So pretty standard first phase. I really like the decisions made by both teams. And I like that we talked about this earlier. Nothing shown topside yet. So you pick a strong side laner in Ryze, which already will help take pressure off of Terry, but making sure you keep that last pick available. I mean, they could even opt to be before the top lane ban and assume Gwen's going top, pick something like a Gragas, like a Rumble, or actually, if you watch LTA, Sniper pulled out the Riven into Gwen. So that is a very, very viable option right there, as we see more AD bans coming out targeted at Alistair.
Yeah, and with the agency banning out that Nyla, I think that they are under the impression that this Tristana is going to be going into the mid lane, but it is still a very flexible champion, along with that Gwen, can go into the jungle, can go into the top lane, depending on DP5, what DP5 want to go for here. And so I'm sure that they're looking to see what that R4 pick is going to be. And looking at the composition right now for the agency, lots of crowd control, some good scaling as we move into the later stages of the game, but we're missing those early game bridges to be able to potentially get those kills, to start accelerating the gold lead on your carries and start to get the momentum going into your favor. DP5 is saying, no, we want to take away some of those hyper carries as we move into the late game. The Jinx and the Aphelios are going to get taken away. So 3 bottom lane hyper carries tonight here in the second phase of pick ban.
I'm curious to see where the agency goes here. I think you should probably pick your ADC now, just seeing as the pool has been so pinched. Ashe is available, but you have to consider that this is a very low damage composition. I like the Xayah because you've got Gwen coming forward, prevents you from getting all in by Tristana. You can buy so much time with the ultimate ability, and pairs very well with Rel. When you lock down a target for so long, you're able to get so many more feathers down. Incredible answer with the Ezreal, because, you know, Xayah doesn't want to walk forward, so if Ezreal can poke from far away, that's very good. I would like to probably see, with the amount of engage on agency side, I think you should look for a mid laner that they can take advantage of that. You know, Victor is available, Hui is available, Syndra is available. Any champ that prefers to have you come to them and they can just hit you with all of their artillery abilities, I think is very strong. But they are going to opt for another fighter. So it is going to be Gwen jungle, Renekton top. I think Renekton's probably a very strong blind pick into whatever agency wants to pull out. I think that's something now like Gnar is good here. Gives you some more range, gives you some more Jace. Jax is tricky, but I know that Terry does play it. It's going to be volatile, but I think it does fit enough with the comp to be viable.
Very tricky indeed. What I'm seeing right now out of the agency is that Jax does now get confirmed is the lack of presence in the early game, especially 3-6. Jax without Grandmaster of Arms, if you miss that Counter-Strike, or if the Renekton is able to get in and cause that damage in the 1v1, which is highly expected here as we move into the draft, with Gwen and Skarner trying to be able to get to that level 6, this could be an opportunity for DP5 to say, hey, we could just win out through the top lane and show that we are the superior topside team. Terry Tinkle, I would have preferred, like you said, maybe like a Gnar, or maybe something that can have a little bit more bite in the early game. With that Aatrox already banned, maybe some of those options are now no longer available. But that's the thing that now I'm looking at it when we go into the agency's composition is, until you get 2 items on your carries, you're going to be having a real tough time, and you're at the mercy of 3 AD powerhouses that are going to be able to just wreck your champions and the base.
Yeah, and also there are some more. I know that they did need damage, especially you have burst with Xayah and you have the DPS with Rise, but it can get stymied if you don't get ahead. So if they were confident enough in their damage, you know, something like Poppy top would have been really good if you look at all the dashes and jumps, but you would be running into some damages. It's also not the easiest champ to play in this matchup. I'm very excited for this game because when you look at Dizzy's P5, they have a lot of champs that want to fight. Even Ezreal can go forward a little bit, but they don't have any hard engage. But the fact that they don't have any hard engage it's kind of mitigated because they have frontline and the enemy team has a low range mage, a low range AD carry, and 3 champs that want to jump on top of you. So they don't have to worry about finding a way in. They're going to come fight you. So we just have to utilize our abilities the best we can, preserve our health bars, make sure that Braum keeps our 2 carries alive, and that's going to be the goal. Now, that is a little bit more difficult to execute than the agencies just go forward and right-click on the nearest enemy champion, but these are the reasons these teams are in the playoffs and getting this second chance. They were good enough to get here. Both of these teams only lost 2 series apiece, so very excited for this first game.
And we'll go ahead and jump into the Dragon Draft really quickly. You predicted the Dragon Soul correctly in Game 3 of last week. So I'm going to go ahead and start things off here with the Dragon Draft in Game 1 of this extra little bit of Dragon Drafting. And I'm going to go with Hextech Soul to get it going.
All right, Hextech Soul first. I'm going to go with Cloud and Mountain.
Cloud and a Mountain. Okay. I'm going to leave you with the Chemtech Jack, and I'm going to go with the Infernal and the Ocean. Going to try to play the field here for this one. So I'm optimistic that I'll get myself a point starting off in this match. But folks, before we take it to that quick break, I want to give a quick shout out to our friends and our partners for the AML Winter Split, and that is going to be Zen Market. If you've ever had a desire or need to get a specialty item from Japan, Zen Market is the place for you. They've got thousands of items, all from Japan. They ship internationally, and they're going to be the place that you can go to look for that high quality, rare item that you have been searching for. 1,000 yen off of your first purchase at Zen Market with promo code Aegis. 1,000 yen off of that first international shipping purchase with promo code Aegis. You can click the link at the bottom of the Twitch screen, or you can click the link in the chat to learn more about our friends at Zen Market. And with that, let's go ahead and take it to that quick break.
迅速な発送ですぐにお届けします。あ、ボクセット？
大丈夫？
でも直接来てくれたの？これって
漫画みたいだったね。
しかも今衣装着てるし、花でもあれば完璧なのに。
完璧だよ。壊れ物だから自分で届けたかったんだ。
あなたって完璧。ありがとう、ゼンマーケット。
Welcome back, everybody, to game one of this third semifinals matchup here in the AML. Because of the strange circumstances here, there's a lot riding on this game for both teams. Obviously, being able to get to the grand finals is a big deal, but I think for Dizzy's P5, this is a really big opportunity for them to show that game five that they had against All In 27 was not a fluke. They can make it happen. They can show us and the whole Aegis community that they have what it takes to be a prominent figurehead here in the AML.
Yeah, and I think it makes you kind of look back much more fondly on their performance, where instead of looking and saying, you know, man, they came so close to beating this team, you look back and you say, man, you know, they had quite a disadvantage they didn't even know about. And they were able to take it all the way. They were able to come back in games that looked completely unwinnable. And now, seeing those same players that made such incredible plays like Vertigo on one of the strongest champions in the whole game on Gwen, Alaskan Kodiak in a matchup I think he can very easily win, and Severed, who during that game was on vacation, wasn't able to play. A lot of people have been saying now he's back from his China boot camp. So he's back, he's ready, he's been grinding, and now with their full roster available, especially with how consistent the bot lane has been always, this is a really good opportunity for them to earn a legitimate championship in this split.
And because they now have an opportunity here in the semifinals to make it to the grands, they're still gonna have an opportunity to make some money. If they get into the grand finals, they're at least guaranteed $380. Falling short in the quarterfinals meant that you got nothing, as we get to see a little bit of trading here in the bottom lane. But I want to bring our attention back up to the top side. Terry Tinkle, starting with the Counter-Strike first ability, getting that stun off and going for a very aggressive trade against Alaskan Kodiak. I don't know if that was the best play, but it at least pushed Alaskan Kodiak into a little bit of an unfavorable situation in terms of the laning phase.
Yeah, it's certainly risky, but I think there was a couple key decisions that went into it. Firstly, he has cookies and Renekton doesn't, so he's going to be able to heal up much quicker. And also, he took Grasp, whereas Renekton took Conqueror. So he was able to get, I think, 2 Grasp stacks in that fight. You're right, it was risky, could have gone way wrong if he wasn't able to get all of his damage out, but he played it well enough, and now he's going to have extra base health. He's got cookies coming in, and Renekton's just got the one pot to rely on. I also want to talk about, speaking of rune choices, Setter on the Ezreal. I've seen a lot of Ezreals go for press the attack. It's very safe. It's very easy to proc. But if you are a very skilled Ezreal player, take lethal tempo, because once you start getting uptime, the amount of damage you can put out is unbelievable, and your auto attacks become much more useful. Every time you land an ability, you're keeping that up, and these lane skirmishes go in the favor of Ezreal once you get that fully stacked.
Getting some resets here coming out of Dizzy's P5 with both Vertigo and Alaskan Kodiak going back. Did not use a teleport, didn't really have to engage against their lane opponents to do so. Double longsword pickup for the Renekton, and then a blasting wand for the Gwen as they're looking to clear their second wave of camps coming up here in just a bit. Meanwhile, Severed on the Tristana, really taking a walloping against Dopa in the early game with that phase rush. Going to be down to about a third HP. Going to stay in lane for the time being.
Yeah, and this engage is very risky for Terry. He has not gone back to base, but he's showing a confidence that I'm really, really happy to see, and I'm happy to hope that that will continue throughout the series. I like the back from, oh, Setter jumping right in.
A lot of damage coming out of Setter here with that explosive charge. Jumping in, but Dopa having no mana and not yet backing, gonna be in trouble as Alaskan Kodiak's gonna go for the 1v1 against Terry Tinkle. Broken was up there, but it did not matter. It ends up being first blood for Dizzy's P5.
Yeah, just a little bit too confident maybe. Didn't have a reset. same on levels, but you're facing 2 long swords. He's going to be able to burst you down if you don't have the counter-strike ready. And you mentioned Broken was sitting there and ready, but never charged up the Ixtal's impact, wasn't able to go through the wall, and now a botched turret dive attempt means that Alaskan Kodiak's going to be able to get so much damage down. That's going to hurt Broken's clear. It's going to force Terry Tinkle to back. Hopefully, for his sake, he's going to have to back after just TPing the lane, because that makes him so susceptible to getting solo killed again. And I mean, just fighting all around the map, people utilizing the strengths they have early in this game. You see Severed going for that all in, knowing that the mana on Dopa isn't there yet. The cooldowns aren't low enough yet to really commit to these fights. I want to go back and mention that Blasting Wand on Gwen. Gwen jungle has a issue that Gwen top does not, because Gwen top can easily force a skirmish because you're just in lane with your opponent. You dash in, you get your damage out, you walk out. But Gwen jungle can't really control the instances in which she runs into the opposing jungler, and having no CC, it makes her early fights actually losing. But once you start getting a couple of items, you can start turning around those skirmishes. So getting that Blasting Wand, as you see, will make it so much easier for Gwen to take objectives, to clear her camps faster, and will really accelerate into this game, especially seeing as Broken spent a good amount of time topside doing nothing.
Yeah, and after that that disaster, you can't really call it anything else. It was a disaster on that turret dive against Alaskan Kodiak. Vertigo was able to go on up, was able to pick up the flash against Broken. Still there, both level 5, but the extended consequences of that failed tower dive, Terry Tinkle having to go for a bit of a rough back, not really getting a lot of what they were going for. They're going to be going back to their minion wave, already pressured up to their turret. And Alaskan Kodiak was able to pick up a couple of turret plates there, and they're going to be coming back with a Caulfield's Warhammer to continue to keep the pressure on.
Yeah, and plus that pickaxe, I mean, so much damage. Flash forward from Sting here.
Lot of opportunity there from Sting, but Set are going to be finding themselves in a great situation, able to cleanse out the stun. Sting going to be very low, does get hit by the Winter's Bite. The passive will proc, or will get one tick, but will not proc. So they will be able to back away. No Dragon available, as the agency was able to pick that up. Gwen's going to go back and pick up the Phoenix Codex, and is going to be one step closer to getting that first item, that Nash's Tooth.
Getting the Nash's Tooth, yeah. The Sheen spike for Ezreal allows him to really go for that. And even you're looking now, Terry Tinkle hits a counter-strike on a low-health Renekton with his Skarner in the area, but doesn't feel comfortable with the commit. Now they can, though.
And Dominus is there, flashing back in to Terry Tinkle. Grandmaster of Arms is used, but Impale going to be just enough for Broken to help secure that kill onto the Renekton. That's going to be a bit of gold going back into the Jax's pocket, and no teleport for Alaskan Kodiak. Vertigo is there. The wave's just going to push on up to the turret. We'll see if Vertigo decides to defend it.
Yeah, I mean, Vertigo is going to have to, otherwise they're going to lose a lot of minions. It's early in the game, so it's not the end of the world if you sack that wave, as you see Vertigo now collecting those minions under turret. And, you know, this is an interesting game state because everyone seems to be wanting to fight. They want to push their advantages in the resets. Ezreal doesn't have a lot of mana back here, so I doubt they want to commit to something, but Sting sees that.
And there's a Magnet Storm coming in, and Setter's going to be very low. Doesn't have flash, and doesn't have mana to be able to go for the Arcane Shift. Will go down as Alistair will pick up their first kill of this semifinals. Glacial Prison was used by Freaktor, probably used to be able to escape. But that's going to be kill and gold going into the agency's pocket.
Oh, and so many minions going to be lost by Ezreal. A cannon plus an entire other wave. I mean, that is extremely devastating, especially considering he's already down 20 CS before that kill even comes through. Great awareness and great commitment from Sting, the substitute. And he's been on the roster for quite a while now, getting his shot. And I love the confidence. They first pick the Rel, knowing that he can make a big impact, and he didn't hesitate one bit, saw the low mana, and went right in. Magnet Storm pulls them both closer, makes it so you can get that feather snare on both with the Xayah pick. And I will admit, a part of me was a little concerned with this Xayah pick. I felt it didn't really fit. Oh, never mind. Impact hits.
And now Setter, not enough, man, not just anywhere to be able to survive this very aggressive play coming out of the agency, with Broken going to be in the bottom side. That 3v1 is going to result in a kill for the agency once again, a kill or a 2-0 stat line for Alistair. The consequence of that, however, I think DP5 going to be happy with that kill, because they might have the opportunity to be able to get 6 Void Grubs here, but a kill on to Severed could be even worse. And no, Broken's going to be able to get that kill despite Severed going for the flash.
Yep, gets the extended duration of the Ixtal's impact because it does land. They are going to be able to grab 2 Void Grubs, bringing their total up to 5. But you're seeing the impact of this Skarner pick. I will keep saying it. The nerfs it sustained were overstated. It was only to the damage. Skarner is still an extremely heavy CC, hard to kill champion that can make plays all over the map as soon as level 3. The Impale is so powerful. And you even saw it. He only hit 1 Impale so far, and it was just onto Alaskan Kodiak. But preventing that Renekton from using any of its abilities, being able to access that sustain, is able to get you that kill. And so with that being considered, when I talk about my concerns over the Xayah pick, especially going for the Yuntals first, not going for Essence Reaver, as we do have an all-in, again, topside.
Yeah, Terry Tinkle going to go up against Alaskan Kodiak. Alaskan going to pop the Dominus Grandmaster of Arms for Terry Tinkle, but they're going to decide to back both of them going away, as an opportunity is going to be fighting here in the bottom lane. Magnustorm is not going to land in onto Setter, who's going to try to be able to get out, but this is a 4v3 until Alaskan Kodiak comes in. Tristana is not there. Here comes Alaskan Kodiak. Are they going to be able to get the stun? Trujap Barrage does not land on anybody, but the stun is going to land on the Sting, who's going to be about 300 HP before death. Will be able to get away. Second dragon is now up. It is an Ocean Drake, and with so many resources expended here from both teams, looks like it's going to be a skirmish, as Severed is going to get a lot of damage onto that mid-tier 1 tower.
They still do have Impale, and they still have Featherstorm, so they're going to go for the kills here.
Broken going to try to go for the inhale against against Setter, but Broken's going to flash away. Will be able to get away from any chance of that impale. Vertigo going to be able to secure the dragon kill. Going to make it a 1-1 set count on that. Cloudsoul's going to get to be the soul for this one, but the Impale's going to land in on to Severed, and Alistair's going to pick up 2 kills in that engagement, and that's going to make them a 4-0-0 powerhouse moving into the mid game.
It's a great play of patience. They don't lose anyone despite DP5 committing so much, so they know they can continue to contest the dragon because of those cooldowns being available. They do chase for kills, which results in them losing, as Terry going forward, he does have the damage.
Yeah, no dominance available for Alaskan Kodiak yet, and Terry Tinkle goes down. 3 turret shots. Terry Tinkle will die, as Vertigo was up there to make it a 1-for-1 in that engagement. But Alaskan Kodiak popping that flash and no teleport, going to be way behind at the moment, I feel, against Terry Tinkle. 2-2-0.
Yeah, I feel like this is the time to swap the map, because you're going to have that Rift Herald spawning soon. You want to be able to contest that. No dragon for another 3 minutes and 52 seconds, almost 4 minutes. And this is the time you want to start changing the tempo on the map proactively and not just letting the game come to you. I want to get back to the point I keep trying to mention about this Xayah pick. When you think about it, Alistair is one of the highest individual performing players in this league. And when you give them a champion that can keep themselves safe, has some safe peel. You know, Renekton is never going to be able to dive back and stun up this Xayah. Gwen is never going to get the jump, and Braum is never going to be able to land some of these knockups. And, you know, Tristana and Ezreal obviously outrange, so they're not going to have a chance either. So Alistair almost is going to kind of act on his own here, where the team can fully focus on engaging onto these carries without worrying about their AD getting blasted. And so giving him that agency is going to unlock so many more angles for the rest of this game.
Yeah, and I think for sure Alistair is unlocked. I mean, staying in the bottom lane could have potentially had them go into the mid lane to get some damage onto that tier 1 tower. But we're going to be seeing a dive here against Alaskan Kodiak. Dominus is up and will be able to use it, getting a nice little bit of health back there. But is it going to be enough to be able to survive? No, it is not. Both Terry Tinkle and Broken are dangerously low, and that turret shot was enough for Terry Tinkle to go down. So that makes it a 1-for-1 there in that 2v1 topside.
They had to keep juggling it, which meant the turret stayed ramped. Luckily, Severed takes advantage of the fact that Ryze is a very roam-heavy mid lane champion, gets this turret down, is 0-2-0, but has finished boots, has the Yuntals, so is trying to stack up, match the scaling of the Ryze, and they're running after Rel, but going to crash down and get out of there. Yuntal's first item for Xayah. Now, typically you'll see Essence Reaver coming out as a very ability-heavy champion, but opting for the Yuntals, recognizing that this game damage is going to be king when you're fighting a lot of these frontline champs like Renekton, like Braum, and Braum is going to try and get out of here.
Wow, yeah, stand behind me onto the minion wave to be able to avoid the crash down there from Sting, so he's going to be able to survive. But very low health bar, going to have to back here as Sting, Broken, and Alistair are now going to be looking to deal some damage against that tier 1 tower in the mid lane. Here comes Vertigo, does have the Needlework ready to go, as well as the Hollowed Mist. But they're going to just back away. The already warded River is now going to give the agency the opportunity to go after that Rift Herald. Dopa teleporting a little bit earlier, going to be able to clear that tier 1 tower top side. And the agency, I think, is doing very well to be able to give themselves the momentum that they need to really secure this game here in the next 4 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mentioned it early. They proactively swap the map, get Dopa topside so we can hard push in these waves to secure the Rift Herald. They put Terry Tingle bot lane, and he might be able to solo kill Severed here. He backs away, knowing he doesn't have the members. Very smart decision making to not fully commit to that. But they take Severed, put him bot side. He needs to get a little bit back into this game, considering he's not really close to that IE, and the Xayah is so close. I think the sleeping giant, though, in this game is Dopa on the Ryze. Has half of his rod fully stacked, is going to have the Seraph's Embrace nearly completed. By the time he buys it, that tier will be fully stacked. And that's when you have to start getting very afraid, because sure, Tristana and Ezreal aren't that short range. You won't be able to access them easily. Gwen, Renekton, and Braum are going to get absolutely shredded through by the Ryze the later this game goes. And I know Gwen has the Mist, is going to be able to be immune to a lot of damage outside of it. But Ryze can easily just walk in there, having that defensive ability with the Rod of Ages HP, with the shield provided by Seraph's Embrace. And now they have the inside angle on this dragon. It might not even be contestable.
And now here comes a teleport from Dopa to make this another skirmish here. Setter trying to be able to get away from the Magnet Storm, but is now going to be caught back in. Sing is going to be very low and will go down. Sever's going to bust her shot. Terry Tinkle away as Alaskan Kodiak comes in themselves. Has the Dominus, going to be able to get a little bit of damage on to Dopa and Alistair, but not enough to have them go down. Terry Tinkle's going to die in the very disjointed team fight as Dopa's going to try to get out with the Roam Warp. Not going to be able to do so. Alistair not able to get out because the Roam Warp was canceled, and 4 kills are going to go to the way of DP5. Setter still alive.
I mean, I mentioned in the draft, DP5 pick heavy fighting champs, but don't have any engage. But it doesn't matter because the agency's only way is forward. So all they have to do is play patient. They wait for Rel to come in. They wait for Skarner to go in, and they just hold firm. Tristana, Ezreal, light them up. Gwen and Renekton shred the front line. Braum keeps everyone safe. Now, there were a couple of odd decisions made. You know, Terry Tinkle going for a flank. Same with Alaskan Kodiak. They both end up getting caught out. Sever jumped forward. It was one of those moments where you think that they're inting, and they kind of are, but what they do is they keep the fight going. As an ADC player, you know, sometimes the best way to engage is to just jump in and force your team to walk up. They're able to clean everyone else out, get the dragon. So now, with Cloud Dragon being the soul and the point being for me, we are going to see really volatile team fights, because you have a lot of champs who just hit their R button very quickly into these team fights and are going to be able to utilize that speed boost for the rest of the fight, as clever teleport used by Alaskan Kodiak to get out of a very dangerous situation, not opting to go for some high-level alcove gaming, just wants to get the hell out of there.
Ruinous Atacon is going to spawn because of when the dragons have been taken. we're really seeing those disjointed neutral objective timers. We haven't had a situation where multiple neutral objectives have been up at the same time. And the skirmishes at pre-20 minutes have been going the way of DP5, being able to pick up those 2 dragons. And Agency just not really in a position to be able to go after that autocon on spawn, especially considering that the 5 Void Grub stacks that DP5 was able to pick up, Severed, Setter, and Vertigo are just going to be able to melt these turrets. Now you have to be careful about that. And so instead they're going to try to clean up these waves. They've got pushing waves in the side lanes. Dopa's going to be able to clear that tier 1 tower bottom side. And now we'll see if they're going to be able to get that reset.
They do get it off. Very well respected by Severed. Figured there's a chance that this is being hovered. I don't want to overextend, give my life. That would be really dangerous for the map state. They'd be able to get so much vision in that bot side jungle. So plays it safe, shows respect. I want to point attention to something very dangerous. Gwen has completed the Riftmaker, and that is a massive spike. In my opinion, the most massive spike for this champion. The sustain that is going to occur from this point on is going to be something that is very hard to deal with the lack of DPS on the side of Agency. They're going to have to find a way to really lock this Gwen down before she can activate that W and burst her so that they don't have to deal with the snips throughout the course of these team fights. And I feel like the Agency's only real manner to fight these fights is almost to allow Dizzy's P5 access to these objectives sooner so that they don't have to go for these chasing team fights. They can lock them into a corner and force them to fight on neutral grounds.
Grandmaster of Arm, Van Dominus going to be popped here. Alaskan Kodiak going to try to go up against Terry Tinkle, who does have the flash. Not going to be able to get away. Alaskan Kodiak flashes forward and will be able to make this a power play for the next 35 seconds for Dizzy's P5. Teleport immediately from Severed onto the top side of the rift. If they can get that Ruinous Autocon, that could be big for their overall stats here in this game, as they're going to go in against Dopa, going to put Dopa down to about half HP, and here comes Vertigo with that Riftmaker. Here comes Freaktor and Severed. The Realm Warp I don't think is going to be possible here, and Dopa's going to try to go golden, but it's not going to matter. Dopa's going to go down, and DP5 is going to extend that 4v5 power play for another 45 seconds.
I mean, the patience is absolutely incredible. They make the cross map play, the solo kill coming in bot side. They don't pull the trigger top just yet. They don't just rush Autocon. They know if they're patient, they can get another pick. They can put down some vision, and it's well addressed by the Agency. They respond by sending everyone up here to prevent the Autocon from being taken. But still, that's 2 kills, almost evening up the kill score, getting themselves a 1k gold advantage. Now, Red Side's got to spend a lot of time killing these wards, and all the time they're killing these wards is time not being spent putting proactive wards down for the dragon spawning in 40 seconds. If DP5 get this and get themselves to Soul Point, it's going to be very dangerous for the rest of this game for the Agency when you have 2 champions that want to split push in Ryze and Jax, forcing them to be at the Dragon Pit every 5 minutes to prevent Cloud Soul really goes against the type of game they want to play. And now DP5 kind of pushing their advantage, setting up some death brushes, preventing any deep wards from coming through by body blocking any exit at entry points to this Dragon Pit. They are fully prepared with pushing lanes in mid and bottom lane. They want to make it as difficult as possible for the Agency to find an advantageous fight around this dragon.
And all 5 members of the DP5 are there. Alaskan Kodiak might have been caught out by Broken and Sting, as the teleport's now going to come in for Terry Tinkle. Alaskan Kodiak does have the dominance, but the Realm Warp is going to be there as the dragon does get taken by DP5. Are they going to be able to get kills out of it? Those Vertigo is going to be inside the Dragon Pit, going to be able to get out using that skip and snip. Will go right back in. Doesn't have any more stacks of that Feather Storm, as Broken's going to go right on to the Gwen, is going to be forced to flash away. Vertigo's going to get slowed. Stun's going to land from Broken, but a double kill for Alistair is going to end this team fight in a 4-for-0 exchange. The Agency has it, and the Baron is now up.
I said it earlier, a part of them kind of does want DP5 to arrive at these objectives first, because when you have to chase into them, they have so much artillery from the Tristana and from the Ezreal. They can walk back forever. Braum can protect them forever. But when you get there first and you're forced to fight inside of that dragon pit, the agency can lock you in there and utilize those CC abilities. Terry multiple times landing multi-man counter strikes. That amount of CC makes it so difficult for champs like Ezreal and Tristana to constantly be getting out their DPS. Same with Vertigo. If he's not able to use that Q and land auto attacks to get the extra damage, it's going to be hard for them to get most of their damage down. So by the time they are running backwards, it's running away with no members to deal damage. Now we see Baron taken for agency. They don't have pushes in many lanes, but they can finally utilize the draft that they took. They have side lane pressure because of Jax and because of Ryze. Tristana cannot match the Ryze at this point because of the steel caps and even because of the armor provided by that Seeker's arm guard. And Jax does, have a bit of a risky 1v1 against Renekton. We've seen it go both ways, but mostly gone the way of Renekton. But with the Baron buff and with members hovering, they will have a bit of an easier time. I'm not sure if they are actually committing to the Otacon. It looks like not. Looks like they thought about it and decided to pull the parachute. But now, even though fights have been going both ways, most of the deaths are on Terry Tinkle as usual. They did overload the bot side.
And now Dopa could be in trouble, going to go for the Realm Warp and will be able to escape using that ultimate ability, but at level 16 should be able to get that relatively easy as Alaskan Kodiak's going to pop the dominance, going to try to be able to survive. No, they will not be able to. Vertigo's still going to be going after Dopa here. No flash available to make it a 1-for-1 play across the rift. But the power play from the Baron buff is still available for the agency as they are overloading this top lane with Broken and Sting. Oh, a great Glacial Fissure from Frictor. Broken has no way of escaping, and they have no extra assistance from Alistair, who's pushing forward the mid lane. That's going to mean that 2 members of the agency are losing that Baron buff, a minute remaining until it goes down.
It's going to be difficult to siege even with the Baron because of Tristana and Ezreal. If Ryze wasn't there, but if he wants to start wave clearing and sieging, he's got to walk up so far. Same with Xayah, a very short range 80 carry. So the wave clear is going to be constant. The defense Braum provides will be constant. And now with 2 members done, Dopa does have teleport, but they won't have a jungler for another 14 seconds, and it's going to take him longer than that to get to the pit. So they're opting to utilize the high DPS from Gwen, from Tristana, to take down Otacon now, utilize that 25% buff to neutral objective stats with those 3 dragons, but I don't think Alaskan Kodiak can win this under turret.
I don't think so either. Alaskan Kodiak going to flash away, going to try to be able to survive. Very close to being able to get out of that one, but will not be able to do so as that last inner tower for the agency to take is going to go down, taking Alaskan Kodiak with it. Ruinous Autocon will be completed by DP5 as the Baron buff now going to expire on the remaining members of the agency. A little bit of a standing buff coming out of the Ruinous Autocon there for DP5, however. The next thing we got to be looking at is that Cloud Soul potential for DP5 in 45 seconds.
Yeah, and now you kind of see the exact opposite scenario where it is Cloud Soul for DP5. They, of course, want to get this objective, but they also kind of want the agency to set up first, because if the agency arrives before DP5, they have plenty of angles to kite back to, whereas if they go and try and secure vision first, they're going to get corralled once again, and Skarner can make such good use of every piece of terrain with that X-Tal's impact. Dopa caught out on the top side, but he's dealing a ton of damage.
Trying to get that flash against the Tristana, but will be denied thanks to that Glacial Fissure by Frictor. They were opting to potentially go for the back here against the dragon, but instead the 3 members that were there to take out Dopa are now going to look to go for some sieging here in the top side. Severed with 5 Void Grub stacks. They're going to be able to melt through this inner tower so quickly, and indeed, they're able to get it in about 7 seconds here, Jack. Members of the agency are now here, so they're not able to get more. The best case scenario for the agency is that now it's going to be 5 more minutes remaining until DP5 could go for that Cloud Soul. It's 90 seconds until the next Baron spawn.
Yeah, I actually really do like that decision, though. It would be a very difficult fight having almost no vision to get into Dragon, especially when you don't have a push in mid at that point or in bot. So you decide, let's sack the Dragon. They still need 2 to get Soul. They need 1 more to even threaten point. So let's just get one of these standing objectives down. And now they're committing a lot to try and get the Baron set up, but it's the exact same circumstance as the Dragon. If you're DP5, you want them to get there first so that you can poke them. You can get them like fish in a barrel with Ezreal and Tristana damage, so that when they're finally low, you can have Gwen, Renekton go forward, lay down their damage, and then try and peel back for those cooldowns to be back up. And right now, with waves kind of being stabilized, Tristana's catching top, Ezreal caught mid, Renekton waiting to catch bot until he thinks it's as safe as possible. With 30 seconds left on Baron, they do kind of need to get a little proactive DP5. They have to try and get an advancement to their ward placement so they don't have to walk in completely blind. And no pink wards, or blue wards, excuse me, are available. 2 pinks in the pocket of Braum, but they're going to have to take a lot of damage right now if they want to get this vision down.
Terry
Looks like they're going for a skirmish.
Could potentially be in trouble here, and Sting is going to get hit by the Braum passive. Is going to be down to half HP, going to be forced to flash away. Needlework is going to get popped by Vertigo, as well as the miss to make Gwen immune. Dopa is now here. Terry Tinkle coming in as well, so the 5 members of the agency now going to be in the mid lane. Baron has spawned. All while Alaskan Kodiak is still feeling comfortable to push forward in that bottom lane, has a teleport available when they want to go for it.
Yeah, but they're using this pressure just to try and clear wards. Very smart decision not to just start it up right away and get kills. Realm Warp being used behind them.
And now Setter going to be the target here. Setter's going to go down. Alistair going to be a killing spree as the Magnetron is going to land into the Impale. Vertigo's low. Vertigo's going to get shut down by Dopa as Frictor and Severed going to try to be able to survive, but Severed's going to get rooted, and Terry Tinkle's going to be able to go in. Frictor and Severed are on the opposite side of the rift, and the agency might just be able to end the game here, Jack, as Terry Tinkle's going to go golden. Dopa's going to go golden. They both survive, and this looks to be an ace for the agency.
They utilize the strength of the Realm Warp, perfect communication. They notice Setter overstaying mid lane. They weren't decisive enough. Did they want to go ward up Baron? Did they want to try and start it themselves? Did they want to look for another fight? They couldn't make their mind up. In the meanwhile, agency had a plan already conceived. They go for the Realm Warp. They immediately execute the Ezreal, and then just one by one, DP5 run in frantic to try and save the game stake, and that will be how game 1 ends.
And what a glorious bait coming out from the agency there, knowing that the needlework was down, knowing that the I guess the momentum that DP5 could have potentially tried to go for was now no longer available. You get an amazing Realm Warp into the backline, which forces Setter into a very awkward situation, resulting in Alistair being able to just wail on them with that Infinity Edge available. They just take out the Ezreal and divide the rest of the team, and they had that plan set in motion. The moment that Severed went down, Broken went after the Braum, made sure that they were unable to get back to base. The rest of the team then went towards the Nexus, teleport in from Terry Tinkle to bring that siege damage in, and that one fight ends up giving the agency the win here in game 1, but a very explosive game that for all intents and purposes was very close for a majority of it. You take a look at that gold graph, Jack, it wasn't until the 27-minute mark that the game really started to go into the agency's favor.
Yeah, they got a couple of objective fights that were set up perfectly in their favor, and I really want to give a shout out game-wise, not just for that last play alone, but Dopa on the Rise showcasing this can be an extremely powerful champion, not only if you have practice on it, but picked in the right conditions, where you've got Renekton, Gwen, Braum, all of these champions to be useful have to get so close that Rise can just lock you down with those rune prisons. And you saw even later in games using rune prisons onto the carries, allowing the rest of his team to collapse onto Ezreal and Tristana, typically very mobile 80 carry champs, but he was able to, lock them down. And again, in that last fight you saw, once they finally did get onto Alistair, utilizing Zaya's self-peel, and just seemed like a really good game in terms of communication. It seemed like every play that they made, they were very confident in it.
I was concerned about what the bridge was going to be for the agency, but ultimately it was, I think, the lack of pressure that DP5 was able to put on the agency that resulted in them falling short. I was waiting for that moment that we got to see the Gwen just annihilate a backline, be able to go for that triple kill, go for that multi-kill that we know that they're able to do. They were unable to do that. They were really unable to go for that really aggressive push that Tristana and Ezreal with those 5 Void Grubs could have really capitalized on. And the agency was just able to hold firm. That patience was there. That understanding of the game state was very clutch. And that's going to give them a game 1 win here. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll jump into draft for game 2. See you soon. Welcome back, everybody. We are now here for the draft in game 2. As my camera continues to have problems, I think it's because of my my dang dog deciding, hey, I'm gonna eat at my wiring. So let me see if I can fix that. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the draft. I don't want to say it was an explosive game one. Yes, there was a bit of a boom near the end of it with that really nice roam warp and all in against the agents or against DP5, which ended up giving Agency the win. But a very subtle game with a lot of moves and counter moves from both teams. As we move into the draft here in game 2, the Agency is going to be on blue side, DP5 opting to go for red and those counter picks. But so far here, Jack, we're going to be seeing the same bands coming out of the two teams.
Yeah, I really appreciate the way that they understood their drafts last game. You know, each team kind of made a couple missteps, but remembered, you know, we have to play the comp the way we drafted it. I'm going to assume that Aatrox is an Alaskan Kodiak pick that Terry just doesn't believe that they can stop enough to, you know, make sure that Kodiak doesn't just win the entire game. Obviously, Varus, great first pick. Everything else targeted here. We still do have a lot of good champions available, though I'm not sure everyone is able to play it. One person I know can play one of the strongest champs in the game that is an early pickable champ is Severed on the Azir. I don't know whether or not Dopa plays it. I know Dopa likes control mages a lot. So, and as I say it, there it is locked in for Dopa. This is a champion we haven't gotten to see in a little while because, like I mentioned, the skill cap is extremely high. It's very easy to look extremely useless on Azir, but if you understand how the laning phase works, you understand how to press advantages, catch up into the game, grab your items, Azir is a champ that can really do it all in terms of having options to engage, disengage power, zone power, and with the answers of being Ahri Volibear, it's clear they want another volatile game. TV5 want to be going in, finding angles, constant fighting, and they want to start early. We are muted, Moose.
That's what I do. I mute sometimes. It's great. But Dopa did get caught out a couple of times in game 1, and maybe a little bit more mobility out of the Azir will have them be a little bit more safe as they try to pressure those side lanes. But as you were talking about, that volatility is going to be there with the roaming potential of the Ahri and the early game power and the overall ganking power of the Volibear, especially being able to turn off those turrets with Stormbreaker. It's an opportunity for DP5 to go for those dives, and it's an opportunity for them to deny that scaling that was able to come through from Alistair, especially in the bottom lane. End of the game with, I think, an 8-1 stat line, which is very good, but all those kills very there wasn't multi kills that were happening, and so that's maybe not being that explosive nature that you were looking for out of that AD. But the Agency gonna go for that Leona, a great pickup here. Another one of those support champions gonna get taken away, another one of those engaged champions gonna get taken away, as the Vi is the B3 pick for the Agency, and DP5 is not opting to go for the support ban or support pick in R3, instead going for the Cassante, which was banned out in game 2 or in game 1.
Yeah, it's one of Kodiak's favorite picks. I think this pick has kind of fallen off a little bit. Its global win percentage is like around 30%. I think that's just because it does have a lot of counters, the Gnar being banned away, the Poppy being banned away. So both teams worried about some of these counters. I also think it might have been a slight blunder because I think Alistar is a very good champion into the team comp that the Agency have already selected, and both teams recognizing some of the mistakes other teams didn't throughout these playoffs, that the amount of engaged supports are small, and so you gotta pick them up early. Getting the Leona here means that Agency has now in both games secured some of the best possible engage options in the support role, and they're selecting a very strong, simple composition. Vi goes in, picks a target. Leona, same thing, brings down that solar flare, massive AoE, and Azir has perfect follow-up. After the Kaisa ban, and there's a no ban there for Agency, I believe that is due to a substitute thing, but they are able to get Alistar locked in. Like I said, probably the strongest option they have to get some peel, and it is interesting to save AD carry for last. Setter, second in the league in DPM, and he is first in CS per minute. So this is an AD carry who is extremely capable of carrying your game if you allow him to get resources. If you give him gold, he will carry. And I think it's interesting that the Agency are opting to pretty much do the same thing. Get Jinx, give Jinx resources, and after a little while, especially into the low range on DP5, that Runeans comes in, those rockets come in, she is going to light you all up.
And with the Leona as well, there is definitely a threat that DP5, no matter what the AD is, that they end up getting dove and they end up dying in that 2v2 exchange. The Gnosis is going to be that top 5 pick again, or that top R5 B5 pick against the Cassante. Nyla going to be that final ban here for DP5. And so now with the Gnosis coming in, you've got plenty of scaling, you've got plenty of siege, a lot of problems, I think, with coordination and organizing those team fights in the later stages of the game for DP5 are going to be very much exploited in this game if they're unable to find that footing. And they're going to go with a Misfortune R5 pick here. I'm looking at the composition, Jack. I'm a little bit concerned. What is the only multi-man knockup, or the only thing that are going to be able to keep these players in to the into that bullet time? It's an Alistair knockup, and that is about it. And you're pairing that with a Cassante as well, who's going to take someone out of the fight.
Yeah, I'm not going to mince my words. I hate this champion, and I think this is not a great spot to pick it. Now, Setter does like these low attack speed 80 carries, loves these champions where it's just every auto is dealing a lot of damage. But the problem is, it's like you said, where's the setup? And this is maybe just my jadedness towards the champion, but even if there is the setup, bullet time doesn't do the kind of damage it used to. So when you look at the agency's composition, the great thing about scaling champions like Azir and Jinx is once they get items and once they really hit their power spikes, they can go forwards or backwards. You can kite with Jinx with the long range. You can use Azir's minions or soldiers to give you a ton of range. Use that the divide to push people back. But with the Vi, the Leona, once you have enough damage, you can run forwards and really use the confidence of your damage to allow you to put yourself in a somewhat dangerous situation, knowing the enemy team has to back up, otherwise they're just going to get one shot. And Nasus also benefits from not having to find his own ways to get into a fight, utilizing the cease and desist and solar flare from Leona. And with Misfortune being directly counterpicked by Leona and picking that Misfortune into it, I feel like you're going to have to see Dizzy's P5 utilize some of their abilities more so for their peel than their engage, using the headbutt to get people away, using that all out to try and take someone out of the team fight, and using that spirit rush to find new angles so that you don't just get all in.
And if you pop that bullet time and it's at the wrong moment, Sting, Dopa, and Broken all have opportunities to be able to stop that really powerful ultimate from being able to do damage. And most of these champions have a way of being able to get out of that ultimate or sustaining it. So for Setter, this is going to be a very difficult match for them. And what I'm expecting out of Dizzy's P5, what I want to see now, is that really powerful early game aggression coming in from Vertigo. You have to get Setter going, having that gold advantage and having that damage advantage against the Jinx, or when those skirmishes end up happening, when they will happen, you're going to be able to deal that damage, and you're going to be able to just stop the agency before they're really able to begin. Otherwise, I think the agency has a lot of engage, a lot of initiation, and a lot of opportunities to make Dizzy P5 put themselves into a really tough situation. So let's see what they're going to be able to do. Let's go ahead and jump into the Dragon Draft here. Jack, it was a Cloud Soul for game 1, and I'm going to take it away from you to start the Dragon Draft for game 2. Cloud Soul. I think it's going to be Cloud Soul again.
Good idea. I'm going to go back to my lucky charm when I can. Hextech and Chemtech.
Very good. And I'm going to take the Ocean and Infernal, which is going to leave you with the Mountain. Once again here, we haven't really been seeing a lot of Mountain Chemtech or Hextech Souls yet, but hey, anything is possible. Any champion is possible. Folks, we're going to take that quick break. Before the game starts, Make sure that you're following the Twitch channel and subscribing to the Twitch channel so that you are up to date on all of the related League of Legends content Aegis Esports provides, and join the Discord so that you can sign up for the next season of leagues, including the Aegis Marauders League, which will be starting up very soon. With that, we're going to take a quick break. We'll see you guys soon. Welcome back, everybody, here to the start of game 2. The agency versus DP5. And we were kind of talking about it in the break, Jack, and I think we really need to highlight this again with this R5 misfortune pick from Setter. Now, don't get me wrong. If Setter is able to get going, if Setter is just able to have a phenomenal game, could very easily carry this one. But considering the uphill battle that they're going to have, what does DP5 need to do in order to make sure that Setter is as effective as possible?
I think they need to not rely on him. They need to let the misfortune be what I think it's best at, and that's providing some utility. You provide a lot of AoE damage. The AoE slow is very useful, but just let Severed try to carry this game on the Ahri with Execute. Ahri has risen in popularity not just because of the build variety, but she has 2 abilities that are easy to hit, and you are dissuade from standing inside the minions, because if she hits the Q and W, she can hit you and push. So now you're under tower, low HP. If you stand outside the minions, you get charmed. Now you can't fight back. So allow this Ahri to be the burst option, get into the back line, go after some of those squishy targets that want to scale, and allow Setter to just utilize Misfortune's early game prowess to try and keep the Jinx down and not let her start accelerating.
And we'll see. We'll keep an eye on what the build path Severed is going to go for. But right now, to be dealt a little bit of damage, but does get that electric proc on to Dopa to even out the health bars here at the level 2 for both mid laners. At the moment, though, Sting and Alistair, the Leona pushing Setter and Freaktor very far up into their tier 1 tower, utilizing the power of those rockets, utilizing the power of the minion proc from a melee champion, but not going to land that Zenith Blade, so they will be able to back off for the time being, as we do see Sting now looking to get a little bit of vision closer to the blue side of the of DP5.
Yeah, they don't want to get set any further behind than they could with a freeze happening here. I want to point out a rune choice in topside. Terry Tinkle going for the fleet footwork, opting for more healing in the lane because you get it off of not only champions but also minions as Severed, taking a lot of damage.
And Dopa is also going to be extremely low. Who gets it? First blood going to go to Severed. 1 HP on both sides. Both flashes used, but it's the Ahri that gets out on top.
Severed ticked level 4, giving some extra healing, and was able to make the difference. Now caught out here.
A lot of damage onto Freaktor. His Ignite's going to get popped. That's going to be the zap as well onto the Alistair, but not enough to be able to take Freaktor out. Meanwhile, Setter going to be able to cleanse away that stun from Sting, and now Sting is in trouble. DP5 is going to lose another member. Setter will get their first kill.
That was just unlucky. Wasn't able to get the damage down onto Freaktor because of the Aftershock proc, and because that bear moved so fast, Vertigo's able to run down and clean up. I mean, just really, really fighting on a knife's edge here. Everything is so close, and Dopa, I understand why the flash was used, as Alistair may have overstayed.
Does have the barrier. Are they going to be able to get out? Doesn't have to use so fine. But maybe trying to get a little bit of extra minion wave, is actually going to pop potions as well. So they're committing to this bit here in the bottom lane, trying to be able to get some more, as Dopa is now going to potentially be in trouble, going to Cerebral shuffle themselves away, as Vertigo's going to be able to land the slow. Severed now going to see if they can get broken away. No, flash going to be used, so they're going to be able to get out, but now Vertigo's going to be able to get some damage in onto the Alistair. But Vertigo's taking a lot of damage themselves. Enough damage to be able to take out the Azir. Brogan's going to be able to get 1 kill. That's going to be putting the agency on the board. But that's going to be more for DP5.
I was worried that because the lethal tempo had charged up, Azir might be able to actually turn that onto Vertigo. He was so patient, but eventually Vertigo gets the E back up, able to get the shield, and it ends up making the difference. Is killed in the end by Broken on the Vi, but then, you know, Sever just walks right up on the R, he picks up that last kill, and this is a dangerous game they're playing. It looks like, based on the items, that Ahri is not going the Rod of Ages build. Says we have enough frontline, we have Cassante, we have Volibear, we have Alistair. We don't need that damage, but level 6 is procced and they have to run. Dopa doesn't have flash, sends the soldiers forward, isn't able to get the kill. But I mean, as of right now, things breaking DP5's way. I think Agency have to start being a little more patient.
Terry Tinkle does have the Purity of the Sands, but did use the Ghost, did use a teleport, is going to have to use it now. Alaskan Kodiak going to try to get some damage in onto the Gnosis, as Vertigo's going to have to be forced to step back, but Terry Tinkle going to get hit by the knockback from Alaskan Kodiak. That will secure the kill against the Gnosis. Cassante with their first.
Oh man, so close was Nasus to killing Vertigo, surviving on just 1 HP, but able to get the health back from the W, and then Triumph ticks them even further. I mean, like I said, everything is so close, and these are the games where you can get tilted and you can get frustrated because you're not getting these kills. But if you were just waiting a little bit longer, you're playing scaling champions, Azir, Jinx, Nasus. If you were just waiting, you wouldn't have these so close moments. You would just be getting these kills. So I need to see them take a deep breath, take a step back. It might be 5 kills to 1, but it's only a 2k gold advantage. Those can be very easily erased. They were able to pick up the first dragon and get themselves starting to stack those. They do lose the first 3 grubs, but they can easily perform a swap, get a fight for the next ones. I think they just need to reset here. Look at the lane states. You're even CS bot. You're down just a little bit mid lane. You're expectedly down. Nasus is holding their own. Vi has been getting ahead in camp slowly but surely, but with some level advantages in the mid lane and now in the top lane, they've really got to start being extremely disciplined. As another draft danger for Vertigo.
Oh, Emperor's Divide, nice from Dopa, huge from Dopa. That Emperor's Divide is huge, and Severed is going to go down. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Alistair is going to be able to take out Freaktor, and the season is going to pop. Broken's going to be able to take out Setter, but not before Freaktor's Ignite will be able to finish the job against the Vi to make it a 3-for-1 exchange in favor of the Agency.
That was 1 billion% worth it. Azir gets a shutdown. Alistair gets massive gold influx into the Jinx, certainly going to be able to back and get a BF sword at this rate. And Nasus just free farming under turret. This is exactly where he wants to be, unless he gets taken over the wall.
And there's the all-out coming in, but Terry Tinkle's going to pop the Fury of the Sands. But here comes Vertigo. Alaskan Kodiak will take that, assisted by the Volibear.
Yeah, Cassante, I mentioned it earlier, in tier 1 leagues, and actually in all leagues in professional play, this Cassante win rate has been plummeting. I think people rely on it as a tank too often, but when you pick it into a bruiser type like Nasus that is a bad early game, a practiced Cassante player can utilize just how strong this champion still fully is. Especially when you look at a team comp like the one Dizzy's P5 have, they just need frontline. And with Alistar, excuse me, being able to headbutt away, it's going to be very useful later.
Broken though, that was a nice stun from Vertigo. The bullet time will be enough to finish the job onto the Vi, and now Dopa going to be in trouble, going to be stream shuffle to get away from Severed, Vertigo, and Freaktor. But that is, I think, exactly what DP5 is looking to do here, is find that one stun, maybe find that one pick using that bullet time.
Yeah, and great trample by Freaktor, like you said, canceling the Q. He's caught out here, but I don't think they have the follow-up. Vertigo is running down. They're going to find Sting.
And that's going to be the Solar Flare landing, but Sting is now going to be in trouble. Can they get out? They will be able to use the Eclipse to get a little bit of extra health back, but a flash forward going to come in from Vertigo, as Broken's not going to come in with the ball breaking. The season is going to land onto the Volibear, which is going to give Alistair the reset and going to secure a kill for the Agency to make it a 1-for-1 jungler for support.
again, able to be patient. They wait it out. Vertigo does go and get the kill on Sting, but overextends, gets knocked back by Vi. Alistair able to pick up another kill, and as you can see, has every single component item of the Yuntal's wild arrows. So once they get that finished, stacking begins. Looking at the items, Leandri's Anguish completed for Azir. Needs to get that Nashor's Tooth and that Rabadon's to really get that damage online, but going for an aggressive shift right away.
And now Sever going to be forced to flash away. Dopa has flash now. Emperor's Divide used, but Sever going to be able to be back inside their jungle. Vertigo was there, and now Dopa maybe seeing if they can scope it out. Oh, flash was used, but the teleport was just, or the recall was just in time, and Sever's going to escape.
Oh, feels bad. I mean, would have been able to get the kill certainly if the recall was canceled, but just too late in the animation. So now it is flash for flash used. But I mean, that kind of goes. I'm extremely impressed by Dopa's confidence. Severed has been hitting every single charm, solo killed earlier, chunking him down, but ever since that shuffle came out, putting Severed under turret, grabbing that first kill, you're seeing Dopa really start to shine here, not showing that he's very afraid, just slides right out of that. And this is the type of gameplay I want to see out of this star player, especially playing such a strong champion capable of being a huge carry for the team. I mentioned it in Champ Select, but Azir has a very high skill cap, and so seeing that he's able to pilot this champion this well gives me confidence for the late game that Azir and Jinx will be able to carry these team fights. Now seeing the Void Grubs go down, 6 Void Grubs for Dizzy's P5, 2 Dragons for Agency, and it will be Mountain Dragon, and I believe that is another one for me.
It sure is, Jack. As we continue having you dominate the Dragon Draft, we get to the 12.5 minute mark here in this game. The Agency falling a little bit behind in gold, a little bit behind in momentum. But if they can continue to stabilize, not let the DP5 go further into this one, they should be just fine. And they're looking to see if they can stop DP5's momentum now, as Broken, Alistair, and Sting are going to go up against Freaktor and Setter. Bullet Time's going to land multiple members, but there comes a Solar Flare to stop that ultimate, but not before Broken and Alistair taking a lot of damage here. Here comes Dopa, though. Charm's going to land on a Severed. Season Assist available. No, it is not, but Sting going to be able to be in there to give Alistair a double kill. Dopa's gonna take out Setter, and that's gonna be a 4-for-0 trade in favor of DP5.
You just walk into the
Agency, sorry.
You walk into the absolute meat grinder that is Jinx Azir. They're trying to get Vertigo down, or excuse me, they're trying to get Broken down. Vertigo runs forward, Severed tries to follow up, and Setter is trying to stay as far back as possible. But once you get into range of Jinx Azir, if you can't stop them from getting their damage down, it is nearly impossible to win any fight. Once that first Excited gets procced, Jinx can commit to just using her rockets, and it's so much damage. With the lethal tempo, you have so much attack speed on top of all of it. I mean, just perfectly played. And they played it so patiently and so disciplined that Dopa didn't even use the Emperor's Divide. He saved it as long as possible, thinking that he might be able to find an angle for a shuffle there, but never ends up having to use it. They still decisively win the fight. Solar Flare was used to stop that bullet time, even though it did do a pretty decent amount of damage with that knockup by Freaktor. But now Terry Tinkle finding himself in another bad spot.
It's going to be a 2v2 as Broken is in. All out, not going to be used there by Alaskan Kodiak, but Broken is in. Alaskan Kodiak going to be able to flash away. Can Broken finish the job? As here comes Dopa. Dopa going to try to get it, and will be able to use the ultimate to get through and get the kill onto Alaskan Kodiak, and Dopa will be the one to finish the job against Vertigo to make a double kill for the Agency. Meanwhile, here in the bottom lane, Freaktor and Setter going to be aggressive. They're going to be forced to back away. But more money going into this Azir's pocket.
I mean, that's not worth it at all, though, for Dizzy's P5. Any day of the week, you will give up 2 of your lower econ players to get a double kill onto a Zir. Now moving towards that Nashor's Tooth as most of the completed components there. Merc Treads completed to make sure he doesn't get CC'd for too long and is able to get the maximum damage out possible. Sting, sadly, sitting on a ward down here, doesn't know it, just trying to contend with the BF sword MF with all that sustain. It's so impossible to actually get a 2v2 kill at this point. The unstoppable will on Alistar, it's going to be very difficult for them to burst him down. They're just kind of waiting for this game state to break. They're waiting to get out onto the map. I think this is the time where the junglers want to move down, break that bottom turret, maybe go get Rift Herald and bring it here. Or maybe just switch lanes, because you just don't want to have this 2v2 forever. You want Jinx to start getting some solo XP, be able to farm a lot safer, and still be able to join fights across the map. Probably going to wait to see anything until the dragon spawns.
Charm gonna land in onto Dopa. No flash available there, but Dopa going to be able to get out as Severed and Vertigo going to escape. Meanwhile, Terry Tinkle not going to be able to win in that 1v1. Going to be able to give a kill over to AP5, but Broken is now here. Season Assist Uset are not even able to pop that bullet time. And that's going to be 2 kills for the agency, putting a rampage onto Alistair.
Yeah, I mean, this is typically how agency games play out. Terry Tinkle gets slammed 1v1 topside, but Alistair, Dopa, and Broken are able to carry with their coordination. And just like I mentioned, they're going to break bottom turret. They're going to move over and get this dragon. And then hopefully they're able to unlock the map for Alistair's Jinx, get him in the mid lane so we can join any skirmish, start free farming, start getting solo XP. Both him and Dopa have excellent CS per minute right now, and like I mentioned before this series started, if you look at Setter, down 10 CS, down about 30 from where he usually is, he is leading the league in CS per minute, and this game you are just not seeing that same performance. Now, Alaskan Kodiak, having that completed Iceborne Gauntlet and the completed Thornmail, he needs an MR item to deal with Dopa, but after that, this is going to be a scary Cassante. You're going to fully unlock that kit where he can soak up a ton of damage with his innate resistance and then turn that into damage while going all out. Has teleport, so they're going to stick him still on this side lane. But, I mean, these fights are going to, hopefully for Dizzy P5's sake, start scaling back towards them with some of these item completions, as Alistar might be caught.
Oh no! That is the first death for the Jinx in this game, and that is a big one, as Severed is going to be able to get that shutdown bounty onto the Jinx. 25 seconds remaining until they come back into the fight. But with the AD dead, the agency are unable to stop this Rift Herald from getting taken, as Alaskan Kodiak is looking to go up against Terry Tinkle in the 1v1. Once again, that Thornmail is there. That's also going to be the Frostfire Gauntlet. And now Broken's going to be going into the 1v1 already. Alaskan Kodiak down to less than half HP. Season Assist is going to get used. Can Broken finish the job against this Cassante? I don't think so. Going to try to go with the Vault Breaker. Do they land it? No, they do not. Great play once again by Alaskan Kodiak.
Good job, Riot. Cassante champion, able to get a solo kill under turret and evade the Vi. I mean, just... I see why they picked this champion early for Alaskan Kodiak. I mean, you don't have to take my word for it if you've watched at least a minute of this game or even look at his score line, 5-1-1 on the Cassante pick. Just able to perfectly champion and pilot this character. I like what we're seeing from the rest of the team as well. Severed finds an angle to blow up Alistair, and like I said earlier, they don't rely on Setter to be the one dealing a ton of the damage. Just lay down the bullet time to get some secure damage down, to get Jinx low and make sure that Ahri can execute. Also makes the Jinx use barrier, which is a big cooldown they're not going to have. Should actually be up just around in time for Dragon, but if they do find another catch on her, but they're going to be finding catches on Terry now.
And let's see if Terry Tinkle can get out of this one. I very much doubt it. Terry Eagles is going to bop that Fury of the Sand, but with Freak Tour, Vertigo, and Alaskan Kodiak there, DP5 will pick up the 6th death against Terry Tinkle, but Severed is going to go down on the opposite side of the Rifts, but unfortunately for the agency, DP5 gets the coin toss, and they will now be able to go for the Otacon, and I think it was a Voracious Otacon as well here, Jack.
I believe it is Ruinous.
Oh, Ruinous, my bad.
No problem. Pretty soon you're not going to worry about either Voracious or Ruinous. You'll only have one option. But Alaskan Kodiak, they're trying to do as much as possible with this time. They got that Riptail charge on the bottom lane, but now they are looking to contest this objective.
And now, with only 3,000 health remaining on the Otacon, can Broken get in to be able to finish the job? Vertigo's going to be dangerously low. Little bit of damage coming in from that bullet time, but the Otacon is going to get Leash. Dova comes in with the backline and gets a nice Emperor's Divide to push the rest of DP5 back in to the waiting arms of the agency, as Alistair is going to be able to get the shutdown onto Alaskan Kodiak, and 4 total members of the agency go down. Or DP5 go down.
They're able to get Dopa early on, but it takes too much time. The frontline members have taken too much damage, and Alistair is just unleashed, has IE, has Yuntals, has that 50% crit, and once they get excited off of the Vertigo kill, able to have so much attack speed without needing that much in the items, just rips through the team. I know it was a bit split, but Severed was able to get caught by Sting there, so while you lock down that Ahri, it's so easy to just blow her up, especially with this build. No Hank, no sustain built on this burst Ahri, so you just are able to go through one by one, and Alaskan Kodiak on the back is able to pick up a couple members and distract for a while, but at the end of the day, it's still a Cassante. It's not going to be able to, fully assassinate multiple members. It takes time, even in all out, so with 39 seconds left on Dragon, a pick here would be huge.
Oh, and if it's up against, if Vertigo goes down, that could be Mountain Soul for the agency, but they decide not to commit to go up against Frictor, who ends up dying, but Alaskan Kodiak teleports in and ends up going down themselves. Broken has the season as it's available, will flash forward to be able to hit Vertigo. Vertigo dies! DP5 does not have their top side available, and Dragon's gonna be up in 12 seconds.
Yep, and they immediately look to push the mid lane. Great decision there. I mean, just great pick. Sting coming in as a substitute finds a great solar flare, and while Freaktor is not the one who goes down, you see a horrible action. Dopa way too far forward.
And they're going to end up dying. Alistair, though, is going to be able to make it a 1-for-1 with the mid lane for the ADC, but Alistair is excited. Oh, Freaktor saving the day against Severed, but not going to be able to finish the job as Freaktor lands the hit onto that Super Mega Death Rocket. Dragon is now completed for the agency. That is Mountain Soul for blue side. 4 dragons to nothing.
And you saw there in that last fight, while Dopa walked a bit too far forward, did get caught. What I mentioned in draft, I have a separate kind of category for some of these hard scaling champions, where some champs, they want to play around their zone and their range, while others want to walk forward and use their abilities to get further and further into the teams. When you have these high damage scaling champions like Jinx, you saw they're aggressively flashing forward, knowing that even though they are squishy, they can put out so much damage that it only takes them a couple of seconds to kill you. Takes them the same amount of time to kill as it does the time it takes to kill Jinx. So super aggressively played, and Alistair, an incredible game last time. I believe he has about the same score line in this game as he did last game, and I mean, quietly, we didn't even realize, because of how accelerated these objectives have been. Mountain Soul has been acquired for agency. I didn't even notice, but getting that while Alistair was pushing in mid lane, Broken's able to solo it. They get that lockdown. So now, I mean, it's going to be even more difficult for DP5 to get any kills, because such a low damage comp drafted Misfortune, Ahri, your only consistent sources of damage, and Ahri is burst. Misfortune is, I don't even know what to call her damage. It takes so long. So, I mean, how are they going to kill Leona? How are they going to kill the Nasus later? The Vi even? So it just gets more and more difficult to see the win condition come through.
And we'll see if Alaskan Kodiak is able to continue to bully Terry Tinkle, but at this point, Terry Tinkle is not really worth a lot. 0-6 and 5, now 0-7 and 5. Terry Tinkle ends up going down, but that's half of Alaskan Kodiak's health bar. Well, all of that was happening. Baron has spawned, and the river and the top side of the rift are lit up so brightly for the agency here to make sure that DP5 cannot go for it, or if they want to go for it themselves, Terry Tinkle has teleport available and will be up in 25 seconds.
You're seeing how far ahead the carries of agency are. Rabadon's about to be completed for Azir. Once that comes on, I mean, Dopa's just going to melt through every single champion on DP5, regardless of how much MR they have. Alistair opting to bypass the Runan's Hurricane, going for that Mortal Reminder, willing to spend the 200 extra gold to kind of curb some of the lifesteal coming through from Misfortune's BT and Volibear's kit. I mean, it just really well played all across the board. Kills are 21-20, so this is quite a volatile game. Gold is dead even, 100 in advantage for DP5, but these are the games we're having. Casters is important because when you look at the scaling on agency, you know just how far ahead they are with the all these R items. Rabadon's death cap completed for Azir. So much damage using that movement to stay up topside. Flash on a Jinx though.
Oh, very nice on Alistair, but the cleanse and the barrier and all of that is coming in. No cleanse actually on Alistair. It was the locket as well as the shielding from the barrier to be able to keep Alistair alive in that engagement. But there comes that melting power from Dopa picking up that Rabadon's death cap. 3 kills to nothing in favor of the agency. Baron is now up, but now Terry Tinkle, who has done very little in terms of securing kills, is now going to be able to tank these turrets while Alistair and the rest of the agency are going to ravage DP5's Nexus and base.
Vertigo's trying to take the minions from behind. Alistair just destroys Alistar. Don't get it confused. This is the real man here. Severed trying to save the game, but it surely is going to be an agency victory.
Very nicely done coming in from the agency. And unfortunately, like, I've talked about it in multiple seasons here of the AML, and I'm going to talk about it again. Games can be won or lost during draft. Setter, I do not think played poorly in that game, and they were able to get a lot of setup through this game with the stuns coming out of the Alistair and the Volibear. But just imagine if there was something of more of a consistent CC coming out of DP5. That bullet time could have been massive in every single engagement. Instead, it was a 50-50 toss-up whether or not it was going to get stunned or not. And in that last fight where it could have potentially gone DP5's way, despite the full bullet time being used by DP5, they weren't able to get out the Jinx that was caught right in the middle of it.
Yeah, and when you draft into a composition with 2 hard engage in Vi and Leona, a fighter like Nasus that scales up and really, I mean, it showed you most damage in the game. Alaskan Kodiak top gap was massive, but all Nasus has to do is keep hitting his Qs on minions, and then when it's time to win the game, he destroys all the turrets. So when you have 2 hyper scaling carries like Azir and Jinx behind them, I mean, the fights are just so simple. Don't let Azir and Jinx die. If you do that, you win every fight regardless of the opposing composition. And another indictment on the Misfortune pick, Alistair has a lot of different champions available to him, but so does Setter. This is a guy who's the 2nd highest DPM in the entire league, and Kai'Sa was banned. Even something, a champ that I'm not even super fond of myself, like a Jhin here, something where you at least have more consistent damage and you have the ability to, reposition, get those ultimates down to prevent that all-in. And the good thing about Jhin is, while he is somewhat short range, if the enemy team wants to come to you, it's much easier for him to fight. I think maybe if they had matched hyperscaling, I know it was a bit difficult just because they had to pick the Alistar because it was just such a perfect champion for the composition. But, I mean, just really, really impressive drafting here from Agency.
Agreed. And the gold graphs, I mean, says it all. The last thing I'll say before we take a break, I think now in both of these games, we have seen a consistent issue coming out of Dizzy's P5. They are not able to accelerate the game against the Agency to a point where they can utilize the gold advantage to their benefit. Like, there were times that they could have potentially done it. They had 6 Void Grubs. They had a pretty fed Cassante, and they just were still unable to break past the Agency's wall and start to really accelerate the game back into their favor, which gave the Agency time to regroup, stabilize, and finish the job. And with that being said, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll jump into game 3, match point for the Agency to get into the grand finals. We'll see you guys soon. Welcome back, everybody, here to draft of game 3. in this semifinals match between Dizzy's P5 and the Agency. Looking at the draft in and of itself, I think the Agency has done very well at covering all of their bases. Especially, I mean, the concern starting this series was how is Terry Tinkle going to be able to respond up against the top laner? And I think that I've been bagging on Terry Tinkle a little bit, but I think given their performances in the past, very volatile, it didn't matter because despite not having a single kill in game 2, what mattered was that they were able to pressure the side lanes, and when they needed someone to soak up turret damage to end the game, they were there and able to make it done. So they will accelerate their lead up to 2-0 against DP5. We will now move into the banning phase of game 3 with the 20 champions not available for this match at the bottom of your screen. And if the drafting continues, we should be seeing the same bans coming out of these two teams.
Yeah, expect to see some Aphelios, expect to see some Aatrox, expect to see some Samira, stuff like that. But there are still a lot of power picks available, especially in the jungle. Seeing as I believe both of these teams' best players are their junglers, Vertigo and Broken. We've still got Xin Zhao, and even though these champions are tanks, Sejuani and Maokai are both still available, and as Vertigo could tell you, he can make Maokai into a carry, stealing every objective on the map, finding picks, soaking up damage, and if you draft well around a Maokai, builds Leandri's Anguish, he'll deal at least 20k damage by the time the game's over. So I would expect Agency to try and lock down one of these strong junglers, especially seeing that the pool has continued to get pinched with the Nocturne bans continuing to come through. I wouldn't even be surprised if we saw something like Viego. It's something that Broken loves pulling out, and I think his second highest played is Lee Sin. Now that's not something I want to see drafted too early, but if they want to go for like a full fight comp and just early and often, I wouldn't be shocked to see something like that.
But no shocker here, the Agency is going to ban out the same 3 champions. DP5 is going to switch it up a little bit as the Sylas gets taken away. And when I see the Sylas getting banned out, Nautilus is still available. You've got...
No, it isn't.
Well, Nautilus is not going to get taken away, but that was the big one that I was looking at. If you get that Nautilus hijack, that is huge. No, not going to be allowed here. So the Agency now have a route available to them to go for that Nautilus Kaisa in the bottom lane. Very oppressive. We'll see what they want to do as Cho'Gath becomes the R1 pick.
I'm a big fan of this champion, especially with that Shirelia's battle song into Dead Man's Plate, as we see the Maokai also selected. The Cho'Gath, it's such a reliable front line, provides so much CC and disruption. The AoE silence that lasts like 2 seconds, one of the most disruptive abilities in the entire game. And the objective security he has, it's a very, very versatile champ that at a glance doesn't seem to be. But it's also a champion that is a little bit more difficult to play than I think people assume, because you have no mobility. If you don't hit your abilities, you have no damage. So you have to be very disciplined. It can go bot, or it can go, it can go mid or top. But I like the response. The Victor, already you see Cho'Gath, Maokai. They have to run into you. So if you have a well-placed gravity field, how do they keep going? How do they continue to pursue those carries? And I also want to give credit to Agency. We talk about it consistently in these 5-game series. Supports with Engage are a hot commodity, so they keep grabbing them early. And now grabbing Xin Zhao, they have Engage and they have follow-up. So really liking what we're seeing in this Game 3 draft.
And it is what my prediction is here for the Agency is that they are building a champion that can help secure kills in the bottom lane when you've got a Nautilus and Xin Zhao who can basically go for that dive at level 3 as DP5's deciding what they want to go for here in this R3 pick. Renata was hovered and instead is going to be the Lulu. So something that we've been seeing, or something that I've been seeing out of DP5, is trying to build these late game hyper carry compositions. Lulu's going to be able to do that. We're just going to have to see what they decide to build with it in that bottom lane, and how ineffective they're going to be in the early game.
I love this draft from both teams. I was thinking they have to pick an enchanter here because they could commit to more engage. But if they have an enchanter, how do you kill either of these tanks? But if you want to commit to hyperscaling in mid or just in your AD carry role, the front line is already secured. So you've got your bouncers. So now if they pick something, I'm looking at my scalers. If you pick a Sivir, a Smolder, Twitch, Zeri is banned, but any of these champs that need some kind of assistance to get through that early game, but then they just get unleashed, Lulu is going to make their lives so much easier. So this is the first game of the series where into the second phase of bans, I love both team comps, and I think that they have a very clear path forward as we see bans getting decided here. And this is a game where I don't really love that Nyla ban. I think that they hovered this area. I think it would be a lot better off because Nyla Lulu is not a great pairing. Nyla doesn't really benefit much from having a big front line, as she's the one who wants to go in. She's the one who wants to really be the focal point, soaking up a lot of attention. I'm hoping that Zeri ban is finalized, but now perfect time to pick Sivir. You're already facing two AD champs, or two melee champs, excuse me. So Sivir, late game, those boomerangs are going to bounce and hit everyone.
Yeah, and that Sivir is going to get locked in. But here is now my concern. Are you going to be able to get into that late game? That Kai'Sa is still up and available for the agency. That Nautilus Kai'Sa has been such an oppressive duo for so long in so many levels of play, and now having that available is going to be very concerning for me. And yeah, it's going to get picked up here. The bottom side pressure that agency could potentially utilize with the Xin Zhao and Nautilus is going to be a big problem. And with going for that Sivir, it's very likely that you're going to have to sack the early game before you can do much of anything. Let's go ahead and take a look at topside. I'm predicting something that's going to be stable, something that's not going to need a lot of intervention by the jungler. Necton's not available, but there are some other early game champions that are up. Gnar is going to be the pick.
I made a prediction. I don't know if I can get it to show. I was thinking Ambessa. I wanted to try and see if I could snipe him out. But Gnar works here too. I mean, you have follow-up engage. You have ranged in mini Gnar form to get through any lane. If it's Cho'Gath, you'll do okay. If they try and counter, Gnar is very stable. Although I do think Camille would be pretty nice in this draft. Olaf the hover. Now, Alaskan Kodiak throughout this league, these are luckily two teams that we've gotten to see a lot. I am a big Alaskan Kodiak fan, and I think him on Olaf is a very, very volatile pick. He can either just get shredded and not have a chance to get into the back line, but Kai'Sa's very low range. And Victor, his only peel is that gravity field. So if Olaf gets a couple of kills, gets a bit of a lead and gets some damage, how are they going to peel him off of these two carries that have essentially all of their damage?
I agree, but now I'm the concern that I have now here is I think the agency has drafted something that wants to try to win through bottom side with that Nautilus Xin Zhao Kai'Sa pick. With that Olaf now getting locked in, I assume that we're going to be seeing Cho'Gath in the mid lane and then Olaf going topside. How does Olaf fare against a ranged damage dealer like that Gnar, who is going to be able to stun you pre-6 when you don't have that Ragnarok?
Yeah, and not only that, but Gnar has the leap. He's got constant speed boosts, hitting 3 attacks, hitting that boomerang. He's never going to be able to get solo kills unless, well, actually, Moose, we got to take a step back. It's Terry Tinkle. He's gonna take risks. He's gonna put himself in situations. Fair. So, while I think that something like Camille would have been a bit more like guaranteed winning lane. I think Alaskan Kodiak is looking down the line and saying, you know, how do I hit those hook shots onto Alistair? How do I hit him onto Victor with the range that they have? I think the Victor pick is fine here, even though all of the champions want to go in. I think having a good mid lane matchup, Victor into Cho'Gath, is very good. And just being able to have another piece of scaling, I think Kai'Sa should go the AP build. Alistair should go for the on-hit AP scaling build. So they'll be able to have enough tank shred. And I'm now just thinking back to that Olaf pick. I think they're trying to consider synergies with Lulu. As Olaf and Lulu, they pair really, really well together. So I'm glad to at least see if that thought process was there. Dizzy's P5, not just counter-picking top, just for lane. They're thinking about the entire draft, all 9 champions selected previously.
And if Alaskan Kodiak, which we have seen Alaskan Kodiak be able to win in the laning phase against Terry Tinkle before in this series, if that is the expectation again, and if that's what happens, Alaskan Kodiak might have enough health, might have enough in the tank when we get into those skirmishing phases. Your only target that I see in my mind is going to be Dopa on this Victor, who is very immobile. You pop that Ragnarok, it doesn't matter what options agency has to go for CC. Alaskan Kodiak's going to be just fine. And once you're able to take out Dopa, you're going to have a very easy time in these team fights. And yes, I totally agree. That wild growth, if Alaskan Kodiak goes in and that wild growth is able to pop and get those knockups in, there's not really much that agency is going to be able to do. And so the CC that is available for DZ's P5, I think really giving them the opportunity here to pop off as we move into the skirmish phase. But my issue with this draft is that I don't know if the agency is going to give Dizzy's the chance to get into skirmish phase with an even game state. Where is the bridge? Where is the opportunity to give these carries this gold, unless they're able to do it in one?
Yeah, I think that you're going to be indexing heavily onto Cho'Gath. You're going to want him to really give you space, give you time. Same with Maokai. It's going to be a lot of disengaging for quite some while because Sivir needs to get at least 3 items to start dealing damage. But once they get it, this is my favorite DP5 comp so far. Removing the nameplates, take away player skill. I think that this is the most concise team comp they have drafted. It's a shared goal. You counter some of the champions. Xin Zhao's Crescent Guard, they've got 3 melees. They don't care about being immune from a certain range, and Sivir's pretty low range as well. So if they can really get their focus straight, you know, go from one target to the next and just pick people off, they can win this. But if they're disjointed, if they don't get the first foot down, Nautilus is going to knock you up. Nar's going to throw you into the wall. It's going to start to get pretty dicey.
And we'll see how the game plays out after we get out of the spectator delay. Before we do that, Dragon Draft. I'm going to go with Cloud Soul again. See if that comes up for game 3.
All right. Seeing as that there's a champion on the team of Dizzy's P5 that essentially has Cloud Soul for their ultimate, I think that's a good idea. I'm going to go with Mountain, and I'm going to go with Chemtech, because I think both of those would be very strong in this game.
I think I'm going to repeat what we saw, or our picks in game 2. I'm going to go with Ocean, and I'm going to go with Infernal, which will leave you with your Lucky Charm, Hextech, Chemtech to jump into this draft. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes for game 3, match point for the agency against TP5. We'll see you soon. Welcome back, everybody, here to the AML. We've got the agency versus DP5 in a match point situation, a redemption game for both, or a redemption series for both of these teams to get themselves into the grand finals. And so far, DP5 has fallen short. The agency has proved their prowess and are looking to end this series quickly in a 3-0 and punch their ticket in to the grand finals. And before I jump it over to you, Jack, here in this best of five, in this 5-man death rush situation, see if anything happens with that. Actually, you know what, Jack? I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, it must have been some scouting done. They probably have, these two teams have most likely played each other during the season, because those 5-man invades are not often willy-nilly at this level of play. Now, they may have just recognized that Nautilus, extremely powerful level 1. Not only do you have your hook, but you have a snare on every single auto of every new champ. But I think that this, like I said in draft, this is the most concise DP5 composition we have seen today. Same goal for every single champion, and also champions that have performed very, very well. I urge everyone, since we have, as Alaskan Kodiak is just on Broken.
Oh boy, and Broken might be going down here. Do they get to use the blast cone? They do, and they will be able to get out. Alaskan Kodiak popping that ghost and really disrupting the start for the agency's jungler.
I mean, he just says, screw my lane. Terry Tinkle, I have had his number since the day I entered the league. I'm going to go mess with Broken a little bit, and he had to get pushed off blue. He's taking his Wolves Force, hasn't taken a single camp yet, and Kodiak sees the enemy hit level 2 and says, this is my time to go. This guy's a madman. I mean, we see every other lane is going according to the matchup. Dopa pushing Severed under tower, Olaf under their own tower against a ranged top laner, whereas the threat of getting hooked is pushing the Silverlulu under turret. And we are seeing a very early gank Vertigo coming in because of the silence. If a Rupture can hit, this could be a dead Victor, but I think we're getting a little bit of a spoiler from that directed camera saying, nah, they're all good there, everything's safe. And I think that early gank by Vertigo, as the hook goes wide, is a testament to how far behind Broken is already.
Alistair going to get a little bit of damage in onto center, who popped that shield, but that's going to be the barrier popped as well as that heal. Alistair's in trouble. No! Summoners. What a huge dredge line from Sting. That's going to be Sting being able to take out center, and now Freaktor is in trouble. That Lulu does have the flash. Are they going to be able to get out? They're going to run around the and to be able to escape. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it, as we get to see Terry Tinkle and Alaskan Kodiak going up against each other. There is that proc from the Gnar passive coming in, and both of them are dangerously low. Freaktor are going to try to be able to escape. They might not even need it. Teleport used by Alaskan Kodiak. Oh, they will barely be able to get out.
I forget the name of the old show, but that theme song was playing. You cut topside, they're fighting, you cut back bot, they're still alcove gaming, trying to get away, and now Severed very low, no mana.
Oh boy, who wins it? It's a 1v1. Dopa's able to get that kill on Severed, but it becomes a 1v1 nonetheless. And I think a win for Severed on the Cho'Gath, who has to go up against a ranged champion in the Victor.
Yeah, that's an extremely impressive turn of events there in the mid lane. Cho'Gath getting that 1-for-1. Very, very worth it, as they're able to complete those symbiotic souls. And I want to just quickly here, while I have a moment, explain why this build path on Cho'Gath is so strong. Obviously, Cho'Gath, every time he eats a minion up to 6, and then every time he chomps and feasts on a champion, gains max health, so you don't need to build as much of it in your build. And because the AP ratios are so high for Cho'Gath, he can afford to go very unique items. So you're going to see the movement speed from Shirelia's battle song. You're going to see a Dead Man's Plate. You're also probably going to see a Hallowed Radiance for wave clear. And what those symbiotic souls allow Cho'Gath to do is become an extremely effective split pusher. Now, not because he can 1v1 any champion, but because he can instantly push any wave with only the Hallowed Radiance completed, one-shot the entire wave, and just forcing waves. Terry's flashing forward now, no ult.
Oh, Alaskan Kodiak, are you dead here? Ghost is available. That rock not available as Dopa does not have flash up. Dopa's gonna go down, and Vertigo, arguably his best performance in the AML was on that Maokai. He is going to show it here once again as he takes out Dopa and gets himself their first kill.
Yeah, I was starting to say it earlier before a fight broke out. I urge everyone, if you want to see a very, very entertaining 5-game Fearless series, go back and rewatch the Dizzy P5 versus All In 27 game. Didn't have the guy in it, but 5 games, Fearless, Vertigo playing out of his mind, stealing 4 objectives, couldn't talk by the end of it from all of the incredible moments, and I'm really happy to see Vertigo get a chance to play this champion again. Obviously, when you think carry junglers, you don't think Maokai, but just the way this guy plays Maokai, he seems like he's everywhere all the time at every objective, and here he is mid lane repeating.
Another Rupture going to land. Chaos Storm is coming through. Vertigo maybe dealt a little bit of damage, but another Rupture lands and Severed trying to pick up that kill. It ends up being Vertigo being able to take out Dopa for the 3rd death for this Victor in this game, and now Freaktor is here to ensure that this 2v1 becomes a 3v1. Broken, unable to get it. Severed now 2-1 and 2.
I mean, these are 2 tank champions. You wouldn't think that they're capable of doing this type of damage, but they peel, or they line everything up so well, hit every single Rupture, and Alaskan Kodiak taking a lot of damage, but pops that Ghost, just gonna run away. And looking at the CS now, an extreme CS, just so much down. 33, trying to collect as much under turret as possible. Like we talked about in the draft, I'm not sure this is the most optimal counter pick, maybe looking at the team, but Terry Tinkle is proof you don't have to win this top lane matchup to be effective for the rest of the game. He's hoping that he can start making some noise in these team fights. But as we zoom out, look at the items completed. That mirror completed for Cho'Gath, starting to get some of that mana, working towards that battle song. Leandre's Anguish trying to be built for Victor. BF Sword and that Cull for Kai'Sa. It looks like Kai'Sa is going to be going for the crit build this game. It's a standard crit itemization, Yuntals into IE, all the good stuff. And Sivir just sitting on the Cull, getting their 2nd back off now, hoping that they have the BF Sword. I believe they will have that in base, and they do.
All right, and so, Freaktor might be in trouble here. Going to give a kill over to the agency if they're able to get out. Flash is available. Sting is going to land that dredge line, and that is going to be, says no, Jose. Freaktor is going to be able to take out Dopa. Void Grubs, the first stack was started, and I believe only 2 were taken by the agency. But now, because this is something that I'm going to need you as a color caster to talk to me about. What is that first item, that stacking item that Severed has built? Because I don't know what that is. I don't think I've seen it recently.
Yes, it's a very not often built item. You also see Nautilus going for it. It's another reason I didn't get to finish because of the fights. Another thing that makes Cho'Gath such a good split push is those are called symbiotic souls, and they're essentially the replacement for not Swifty boots, the boots that used to give you like a crazy amount of movement speed out of combat. I forget the name. Yes, and so you get stacks. It goes down based on how many steps you've taken, as Alaskan Kodiak is just going to die up here topside, thrown into the turret. I'll take that one for you. The souls tick down, and once they go down to 0, they evolve. And once they evolve, you get a ton of movement speed out of combat, and every one of your recalls is empowered as if you had Baron. So Cho'Gath can walk down a side lane, kill 2 waves in like 3 or 4 abilities, and then empowered recall back to base and still be out on the map. It's very good for these mobile champions, as Severed has to flash again in the mid lane. It's becoming a more popular option on some of these tank laners that want to get out on the map, and for supports that do a lot of roaming.
Yeah, and just going to be right back in. You said that accelerated recall from the boots. Going to come in, teleporting up. Now 50 seconds remaining until they are able to finish it off. And so Severed going in on this Cho'Gath, I was questioning it, at least in the early game, having the right timing to be able to get that rupture onto Dopa. They definitely know what they're doing, and they're really impressing me here in game 3.
Yeah, it's one of the most obnoxious champions because he has a knock-up and a slow on the same ability. Like I said, that AoE silence has got to be one of the most annoying abilities in the game. He's dealing more damage than you could ever expect because his E autos deal max health damage, and when you take Hail of Blades as your keystone, which he has, you can get all of those E autos so quickly and just shred down any frontliner. But this team comp takes an enormous amount of coordination.
And we'll see if they are able to do it. And you talk about that movement speed as Shirelia's is their second item. Meanwhile, Terry Tinkle is going to go in and will get the passive proc onto Alaskan Kodiak. And this is the explosive nature of Terry Tinkle on this agency comp. There might be some games where they don't get a single kill, but there might be other games that they're able to dominate their lane opponent. And Terry Tinkle is indeed dominating their lane opponent here in game 3.
Yeah, it feels like a little bit overconfident is Alaskan Kodiak. That isn't the first time that he's popped some, you know, Ragnarok or used his shield preemptively thinking he had a chance at a kill and just didn't have it and just ends up dying. Terry Tinkle feeling super confident on this Gnar. I see why they blind picked it as he takes 2 turret shots just to give them some false confidence. And Dopa also seeming a bit overconfident, thinks over and over again he can kill this Cho'Gath, forcing him out of lane multiple times. But you see so much HP for the Cho'Gath with very little built in the kit yet, as we see Nature's Grass come through.
And no mana available for Dopa. This Victor is dead. Severed doesn't have the feast available, but he doesn't need it. Now a killing spree for this Cho'Gath. If you don't stop this Cho'Gath from getting ahead, you're going to be in a very tough situation, as Vertigo is now going to be seen by Broken and Sting. But Severed is there along with Freaktor. They are looking to get this second wave of Void Grubs to even up that count to 3-3, and they are in a good position to do it with Dopa not having teleport, just now respawning.
Fully evolved souls for Cho'Gath, going to be able to get those empowered recalls so often, going to be able to get component items. That's another thing, he can finish quick items so often, so he's always building items when you are going to be behind. We're finally going to see our first full fight.
As Terry Tinkle's going to be able to take one of the Void Grubs. A lot of damage going in onto DP5. And that's going to be 1-for-1 as Dopa is able to get some damage in to Severed. Going to be able to get that kill on to Broken, or onto Severed. But Broken's going to go down and Dopa's going to be able to get another kill onto Vertigo. Meanwhile, there is still one Void Grub remaining that neither team is looking to get just yet.
We mentioned it in draft. This is the one major deficiency for Dizzy's P5. If they don't have Sivir fully scaled up, they have no damage in a full team fight. Victor, Xin Zhao, Gnar, these are all champs that early in the game are going to deal a ton of damage. So once you CC these tanks, you're fully able to take them down, and that's exactly what we saw in these 2v1s where, you know, Vertigo and Severed are perfectly timing all of their cooldowns, all of their CC. They can kill anyone in a 2v1 easily. But once it's a 4v4, Olaf with no items, Maokai, Cho'Gath, and Lulu are not killing any 4 champions ever. So they have to keep finding these moments. But again, here's another 2v1.
And Dopa without flash once again. Alaskan Kodiak and Vertigo are here, but Broken is going to come in to see if they can get any sort of protection against the Victor without mana. That was a kill waiting to happen. Vertigo's going to be able to push Broken right back under tower, but they did not get hit by that turret shot. Vertigo's going to go in once again. They're going to see if they're able to take the kill against this Xin Zhao. They're not going to be able to do it alone. Vertigo going to get the assistance from Victor, and they will be able to take kill against the Xin Zhao to make it a 7-9 kill advantage for DP5.
I don't know how Vertigo manages to play Maokai like it's some sort of AP bruiser and not a tank. He looks so comfortable on this champion. And when you look at his solo queue, it's all AD carries. It's all AD bruiser junglers. And as we see Terry Tinkle again taking on Severed here, this is Cho'Gath now, so he doesn't have a lot of sustain right now.
Oh boy, Severed is in trouble. Does have the feast. Oh my god! Gets the feast with just enough health remaining to secure the kill against the Gnar. Terry Tinkle is dead. Severed gets another stack and will go right back to base with that empowered recall to pick up another component.
This is why I've been gushing about this champion. I mean, he was dead. He had no HP. There were no minions to kill to sustain off the passive, but he gets just enough damage plus the feast true damage. And not only does he get the kill, he gets another amount of max health. This Cho'Gath is so accelerated. It is so clear how practiced Severed is on it as Alaskan Kodiak runs for their life. Ragnarok proc going to just get killed under the top lane turret. And Severed showing up here again has Feast active, so I hope Terry is a little bit more cautious this time as 7 seconds available until Dragon spawns. 2 already for Dizzy's P5. Another game where just suddenly these dragons have been stacked so quickly. Unfortunately, no push available in either lane for DP5, so they're going to be walking in on the back foot.
And the Void Grub's taken ends up being 5-1 in favor of the agency, but DP5 going to be suffering from not having the lanes pushed up. Going to be now in a rough spot as Frictor going to be very low, going to try to get away from Alistair, but going to be able to pop that killer instinct. Both supports are now dead, but they were able to pop their ultimate before going down. Sever going to try to be able to get a kill, and they will be able to secure some damage against Terry Tinkle to make it a 3-4-2 so far, but Dopa is still alive. Alaskan Kodiak dies. Dragon taken by the agency. Dopa unable to finish the job yet again. Sever going to try to go forward with that extra movement speed, and they will be able to do it. It's the first ace of this match, and it's going to go towards Dopa and the agency.
Great turn by agency. They notice that they're coming from multiple angles, so Sting just turns around and picks off the first member they see. And once that fight becomes so disjointed, they have to fight as one. You have 2 mega tanks, you have a fighter who has no movement, and then you have Lulu who is just dead instantly. Sivir has to keep backing up, and finally Setter was able to rejoin, but it was far too late. Dopa so accelerated, went Rod of Age's second item. It's just now starting to stack up, going for the rabbit on Zethka, and caught again as Freakdoor.
And that wild growth, I don't know if it's going to be enough. They let Freakdoor escape because they don't know where the rest of the team is at, but that could have very easily been another kill for the agent. Broken's now going to be able to get a little bit more pushing power into that mid lane. Dopa is now going to be going up against Severed in a game that has been so good for Severed at the start. They cannot now go up against this Victor who has 2 hits on, or 2 needlessly Raj rods, but the piloted Rift Herald gonna try to go into the bottom lane, giving DP5 an opportunity to get a little bit of damage onto Sting. Now with 4 members of DP5 in the mid lane, Terry Tinkle is now here. Looks like we are gonna finally get a reset, but here is something that I've been seeing that has been such a problem for DP5 in this game. Look at the lane states for the agency right now. Even when they maybe are in a disadvantageous situation, all 3 of the lanes are pushing towards DP5.
Yeah, they can't seem to find a moment to get these pushed in, and they're being answered so well by agency. Victor is constantly matching Cho'Gath or Olaf. Those are both matchups that the Victor wins at this point. Kai'Sa and Sivir just free farming, but with the AD build, the Sivir is going to scale more than Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa has to put herself at risk to do damage, whereas Sivir can sit back, just hit these frontliners. Those boomerangs will follow down onto the ranged members. I think that this game is closer than it may seem. It is a 4.5k gold advantage for agency, but we still have the Sivir waiting to get online, needs about one more item. Lulu, obviously an enchanter support, is going to enhance everyone's damage later on. Olaf just now completing that first item, nearly Flame Horizon, still very, very far behind, 2 levels behind the Gnar. We need to see DP5 recognize the strength of their comp and how they have to fight. It has to be as 5. You cannot pincer, you cannot find different angles. You need to walk in as one big, essentially you're just like running in as a circle. You just need to have everyone behind the Nature's Grasp and kill front to back, utilizing the only damage sources you have in this draft.
As the Ruinous Autocon going to get started by Terry Tinkle and Broken. They're looking to see if they can get that one at DP5. I think a little bit confused on what they want to do here. They try to get a little bit of damage in to the mid tier 1 tower, but they're not able to do it. Dopa instead is able to get the 1v1 against Severed, who has very much fallen off here with this build. Going for the Shurelya's, going for the Deadman's Plate, a much more supportive figure in this composition. They will be able to get Autocon. They'll be able to defend that mid tier 1 tower. They get a kill in the bottom lane, and they secure the teleport against Alaskan Kodiak.
Yeah, I think he expected to be able to get Victor low enough to threaten that feast kill like we saw on Gnar, but gets stunned up by the gravity field, just not able to do enough damage. Looks like they may be building towards a Riftmaker now. I think they really want to get that Hollowed Radiance because of the AP damage from Dopa.
And now they're looking to see if they can get Dopa out. Do not have the Magnus available, or the Chaos Storm available. Terry Tinkle's gonna get rooted by the Nature's Grass, and Alistair's gonna go in for the Killer Instinct. Alaskan Kodiak dangerously low. Terry Tinkle's gonna flash forward and get the Mega Gnar against Alaskan Kodiak, who will go down. And Vertigo is also not long for this world. Double kill for Terry Tinkle. Dragon now spawned for the agency to pick up.
Yep, and that is going to be their second Mountain Dragon of the game, evening up the stacking souls. We do see Rabadon's was completed for Dopa, so that is a good kill to get, but maybe not worth trading 2 lives. Will be equalized because turret taken mid lane, turret taken in the top lane. I'm not sure if that top lane had the bounty. It looks like it did not, but taking some of the standing gold for Dizzy's P5 is going to help the lane states that you so well pointed out have been so bad all game long. And Severed, like I said, still going for that Riftmaker. I would have liked to see the Hollowed Radiance. Would have really made it difficult for Dopa to continue to contest the side lanes. Seeing now Kai'Sa going for the Guinsoo's, maybe a bit of a hybrid build. I'm not a huge fan because you get that Guinsoo's out. It does get you somewhat towards your full evolves, but even with the Guinsoo's, you're not going to be able to get your AP evolve. So I think maybe going for a full, maybe like a Runan's Hurricane second, so you can apply Plasma to multiple champions, may have been better. But I'm always honest. I nitpick every Kai'Sa I see. It's my most played champ. So I don't want to, this guy's 1,000 times better than me, so I'm just going to look at what he does and say he knows what he's doing. This guy's Alistair. He's played in open qualifiers before. Very, very, very skilled, as we see another pick.
On the hunt, use Nature's God's going to land on the 3 members of Vertigo. Out, Alistair's going to be able to drop the killer in. Look at a double kill as Freaktor goes down. Severed and Centered are now there, but Centered already using on the hunt, and now Severed is unable to get out thanks to the added CC that the agency was able to pick up. Objective Bounty is going to come back online, and with 3 members of DP5 now dead, the agency are looking to be able to get a ton of structures down here. This power play has already resulted in the inner tower going down in the mid lane. Terry Tinkle is going to be able to get a lot of damage against Alaskan Kodiak, who has the Ragnarok, but they're going to have to walk away. Severed cannot go up against Dopa, Broken, and Alistair in the mid lane, and the agency are looking to get a lot out of this 5v2 engagement as the inhibitor goes down in the mid lane. Freaktor, Vertigo, Alaskan Kodiak, etc. are the 4 members up trying to be able to defend their base, but they're unable to stop the bottom lane inhibitor from going down. The agency capitalizing on a phenomenal engagement.
I mean, they continue to find these advantageous positions where 2 of the members of DP5 weren't present, and it's not just any 2 members, but it's the only 2 champions that are going to deal any consistent damage on your team. So when you just kill that front line and the only players left are Alaskan Kodiak and Setter, they just don't have any way to stay safe in these fights. And now any conversations about item paths are moot as Alistair goes back, fully finishes the Infinity Edge. This Kaisa is going to be dealing so much damage in the fights. 2 items for Xin Zhao, building towards a third. 2 components for Zhonya's, most importantly, has that Seekers for that stopwatch effect. 2 support items done, which is massive, and Terry Tinkle having the best game of this series so far, feeling so confident on the Gnar. And if they get this Baron, it's going to be so difficult for DP5 to hold on, despite the wave clear they do possess against Baron and against 2 downed inhibs. They can just send 5 members top and just take down that last structure. It's going to be so hard for them to defend themselves from getting triple inhibbed, and it's going to be even harder for them to contest this Baron. But Vertigo, I've seen him steal these before. Let's see if he can do it again. Territories are going to end
up in just a second. 4,000 health remaining. Nature's Grass is now going to get used. 4,500 health remaining on Baron Nashor. Still leashed by the agency as Terry Tinkle is now going to go mega. Alaskan Kodiak is a non-factor in terms of damage against this Gnar, and he's going to be mega right back inside Gnar's crosshairs, but is going to be able to get out. The agency will de-leash Baron Nashor, but Terry Tinkle is still trying to go up against the entirety of DP5. Terry Tinkle is going to try to get out of this one, but I don't know if they're going to. They are able to get away from the Ruptured, from Severed, as Vertigo is going to go back once again. Does have a flash up available. Wild Growth is used. Can Vertigo get in for the steal? Oh yes, he can. Every time on this Maokai, he's able to steal those neutral objectives, and Baron Nashor is now available for 4 members of DP5.
He just can't keep getting away with this. He looked back and said, you know what? I don't want to have won that match by DQ. I want those stolen objectives to stand, and if I didn't get to do it in those games, I'm damn well doing it in these. Another incredible steal will keep DP5 alive. It will be so much easier for them to withstand the constant pushes in the mid and bottom lane with this Baron buff active, and they tried so hard to stop him. They used so many cooldowns. They put Sting over the wall to hold him back, but it didn't matter. Vertigo is dead set on keeping them in this game.
And now the opportunity for Setter to come online is there. The inhibitors are going to be respawned once this power play is completed. And so this is going to give DP5 the opportunity to clean up the lanes, clean up the rift, and put themselves into a bit more of a neutral lane state before the next neutral objective spawn. That 4th Mountain Soul available for the agency, but we might not be able to get into that point as Freak is gonna have to use the Wild Growth on themselves. Seven is still gonna go in, gonna be caught into the Chaos Storm. Are they gonna be able to land the feats? A lot of damage on the Dopa as Dopa goes down. Seven is also dead to make it a 1v1. Nice stretch line going to land in on Vertigo. Vertigo is now dead. Terry Tinkle gonna try to be able to get away from Alaskan Kodiak, but they're not gonna be able to do so as Centered is full HP once again. That carry for DP5, trying to be able to stay alive, trying to be able to keep this game going for their team with above 12 CS a minute on this Sivir. They're doing everything they can.
I mean, it was such a good fight and such a good choke point. Sivir's putting down so much damage. All of the focus for Agency is on Cho'Gath and Maokai. They're able to get so much buffing and healing from Lulu, but they made a crucial mistake. They tried to chase down Terry Tinkle instead of just continuing to fight in that choke point, and that means no shutdown from Xin Zhao, no shutdown from Kaisa. I really think they could have wiped them, gotten an ace there, or at least maybe gotten all 4 and just left Terry to live, but they end up going for the chase. They do get the kill, but they have to lock in. They cannot make minor mistakes like that going forward. That was the best team fight they've had all game long. Why? Because they fought as 5. Maokai, Cho'Gath, walk forward. Lulu keeps everyone healthy until Sivir can get the uptime. Sivir's so close to that Bloodthirster going to be able to keep themselves safer. Just needs one more crit item to be full 100%. Opting for no attack speed items. They're confident enough with the Lux attack speed, and we're going to see another 5v5.
On the Hunt is going to get used, as Alistair is going to be able to pop a Void Missile going to land on free, but they're not going to go for the Killer Instinct. Seven is still trying to go in for the On the Hunt, but the Blast Cone just enough for Broken to be able to get out. Did not have to use Flash in that engagement. No Summoner spells used by either team, as the Baron power play is now completed for DB5. Objective completed, as they are able to get those inhibitors back up, as the Nature Grab's going to land it on to Sting, on to Alistair, and they are going to be able to take out that Nautilus. But there's no neutral objectives available at this point, as Terry Tinkle and Dopa are going to try to move forward into the side lanes. Terry Tinkle is still going to try to be able to take that inhibitor out, and they will be able to against Alaskan Kodiak. Meanwhile, DP5 going to see if they can get some more objective bounties going. Broken's going to be flanking in, but Vertigo's going to be able to land it onto them. Center's going to... The Wild Growth are going to be able to get a lot of health back, and they are going to be able to get the shutdown onto Broken. They are going to be able to get the kill onto Dopa, and DB5 now might be looking to go for the end here.
I mean, there's no damage in the base. Terry Tinkle does flash back, kills Freaktor.
And now Center in. That is all of that critical strike coming in. That is huge. And now DB5 with only 2 members of the agency up. Can they end the game?
The only carry left is Alistair. They have 5 minions. Nature's Grass is going to buy them a lot of time, but they have to get rid of Alistair.
Alistair does have the Killer Instinct out. They're going to get rooted. Center going to go down. Alistair still alive. Will die to Alaskan Kodiak, but no. DB5 is not able to end the game. The agency stay alive.
They keep the game going. Alistair is the hero in that moment. They got so scared, Agency. They had a top lane push with Victor, but he has to back so that they can utilize his wave clear. Terry Tinkle was able to get both of these inhibitors because Olaf just has no damage. Flame horizoned by Terry Tinkle, the man who's gotten so much flack throughout the entire season, is able to keep the pressure on by killing those inhibitors. It is 10 seconds until what it could be Soul Point for DP5 or Soul itself for Agency. No wards are in the base. They have top lane minions close to that top lane inner. It looks like Agency is going to have Scuttle Crab, but it's going to be 2 seconds until these 80 carries are available. So this is really good for Agency. They have so much damage without Alistair there, whereas DP5 have nothing without Sivir. So it is going to be uncontested Mountain Soul for Agency, and I think that that's the right move. Sivir has the armor pen. They have true damage with the feast on Cho'Gath. They have so much sustain, so much tank. If you look at Maokai, 2 support items, just wants to keep Sivir alive, who is finally going for an attack speed item. Baron's warded for both sides, and I mean, any ace at this point is going to be game with the way the map is currently. All eyes are on Setter and their front line. Can they get him enough uptime? Severed pushing the side lane, doesn't have Hallowed Radiance, so can't push fast. Dopa's looking to push up here, minions pushing in tops. I mean, it is so close. Any mistake will be the end of the game, and if DP5 are the ones making it, it'll be the end of the series.
Alaskan Kodiak does not have teleport available. They want to try that minion gone in the top lane, but they're unable to really commit to anything. It is Severed who has that teleport up, who's going to try to get some pressure into the bottom lane. They're going to be able to take a tower down, but it's going to be an exchange for Baron Nashor for the Agency. That power play is going to be there for the next 3 minutes, along with Mountain Soul completed for the Agency. DP5 is going to have a very rough Baron power play to contend against.
I mean, it was an extremely smart decision by Alistair and Sting to go get that solo. Alistair as 4 full items, has evolves in Q, so just doing so much damage with the Acathian Rain solo on a target there. Now we can just move top side, and someone's already almost so much slow. So Sting could be going down here.
Sting is very low. That is all the power of Center coming in as Vertigo's going to be able to flash away. Center is going to also be trying to do what they can, but that wild growth is now done. Severed and Alaskan Kodiak going to be very low as Terry Tinkle's going to try to go in, try to finish the job against Alaskan Kodiak, but they're unable to do so. Alistair is not there to go for the killer instinct, but Center is now dead. Terry Tinkle is going to give their life for the cause, and that is the AD down for DP5.
This is the strength of having Baron. They can push multiple lanes, which forces DP5 to split up, and they only can win as one cohesive unit. But when you're getting killed on your mid inhib and your top inhib, you can't allow them to split you up, but you have to split to save the game. And now with no setter, it's going to take another miracle.
Vertigo does have the Nature's Grasp. It's going to only land onto Dopa and Broken. They're going to be able to get out of it as one Nexus Tower is going to go down. Sever going to try to go for the Rupture, but it misses. That's going to be Dopa dealing some damage into it. Alaskan Kodiak is going to get hit by the Wild Growth with Victor. Sever is low. Sever's going to go down to Alistair, and that's going to be the last Nexus turret going down. The Agency are now looking to win this game, and it looks like they're going to be able to do it. Huge win for the Agency as they make it to the Grand Finals.
Incredible performance by Agency. They stayed patient. They didn't get discouraged, even in the face of a hyper scaling composition with Sivir online, all the tanks ahead. They stayed confident. They understood how much power Terry had over Alaskan Kodiak, and I mean, they held strong. It looked like they may have faltered a little bit too far, and the scaling caught up to them. But, I mean, for me, easy player of the series, Dopa. That guy just... I know he fell behind early in this game, but later on, he was just a monster.
Yeah, I mean, the criticism for Dopa that we've seen throughout the series was that maybe he was a little bit too aggressive in the side lanes and ended up getting themselves caught out. But the damage dealt, I mean, tells the story. Dopa was able to melt every member of DP5, including Severed. Alaskan Kodiak was a non-factor throughout the entirety of the game. That Olaf did absolutely nothing for them, unfortunately. But Dopa being able to just wail in and make sure that Freaktor had to be on point with that healing, it made it so difficult for DP5 to be able to manage the chaos that was coming in. And the breaking point for me in this one was the Agency being able to get that Mountain Soul on top of 4 Mountain Drakes. The resistances that they were able to pick up, it didn't matter how big the crits were from Setter, who dealt a considerable amount of damage. If you're able to survive long enough, and if you're able to take out the Sivir before they take out you, which is exactly what happened in that last engagement, you're then able to finish the job. This game, looking at the gold graph, the most dominant of the 3 in the series. But don't get it twisted. DP5's best performance by far in this series.
Absolutely, and I know we saw flashes of how this draft can function. That double tank with high CC allows any hyper carry, but especially Sivir, to get so much uptime. And I know we talked about it at the beginning, but I can't help but feel like if maybe they had used that last pick to pick a top lane champ that could have had a chance at winning the laning phase, a Camille or even an Mbessa, something with a little bit more of an ability to combat the Gnar and not just have to keep dying under turret. Could this have looked different if they could match the side lane? Because in a 4v5 even, with the frontline Sivir had and the enchanting from Lulu, it looked all right. But just when you look into the you know, those lanes where they're pushing down mid lane, but Terry Tinkle is just solo taking 2 inhibitors, and Alaskan Kodiak just can't answer at all.
Yeah, and unfortunately for DP5, opting for the red side in the 2 games that they had side selection, I don't think that the R5 pick did enough for them to warrant going for those counter picks, unfortunately. And so overall, I think, DP5 hands wise played fine, but the drafting definitely going to be a win for the agency. And they're going to need that if they're going to win against Akuma Pizza Cutters in the grand finals next Tuesday. Folks, we very much appreciate you guys stopping by for this impromptu semifinals match. But don't forget, and please be here next week, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, for the grand finals here of the AML 2025 split. It's been an incredible season, and we're going to get to see the end of it next week. Shout out to our partners at ProComps and Zen Market. 1,000 yen off of your first international shipping purchase with promo code Aegis from Zen Market. Thank you very much for them being a partner here for Aegis this season. Shout out to all the players, and shout out to you guys for stopping by for this incredible series. We'll be back again next week for the grand finals. You don't want to miss it. See you guys then.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
ありがとうございます。
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 And they say I have a grim sense of humor.